Good evening, everyone, and welcome to the Newington Town Council regular meeting of Tuesday, May 23rd, 2023. I'd like to call the meeting to order at 7:01 p.m. If you would please rise if you're able for the Pledge of Allegiance.
Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you. Next item this evening is roll call. I believe Susan's online with us. Hi, Susan.
Good evening. Councilor Annis. Deputy Mayor Budraco.
Here.
Councilor Camillo.
Here.
Councilor Donahue.
Here.
Councilor Mankey.
Here.
Councilor Nagel.
Here.
Councilor Page.
Here.
Councilor Rada.
Here.
Mayor Del Buono.
Here.
Thank
All
you.
right. Thank you, Susan. Next item this evening is approval of the agenda. I don't believe we have any changes. Does anyone have any changes to be made?
We do not.
So I'll entertain a motion to approve the agenda as written.
I would move approval of the agenda.
Second.
Second by Councilor Rada. Any discussion, councilors? Hearing none. All those in favor, please signify by saying aye. Aye. Any opposed? Motion passes 8-0. Councilor Annis absent. Just checking over into my attendees window as we move on. Okay. Moving on this evening, we have the pleasure of having three proclamations this evening. So we'll start with our first one, which is for the 40th anniversary of the Newington Arts Commission. So just for those of you in the audience, typically the way we do these are I will read the proclamation into the record. We will have council discussion and vote, and then I'll come around, and those of you that are here to receive the proclamation can come forward, and I'll present you with the proclamation, and you are certainly welcome to make any comments that you'd like. Okay? All right, let's get started. Proclamation. Whereas the Newington Art League is a nonprofit arts organization serving Newington as well as regional members, and whereas the Newington Art League was established in 1983 when Mickey Zadrowski solicited members with the belief that art leagues promote an interest in art by sponsoring lectures of visiting artists, providing shows and classes for anyone interested in expanding or learning artistic skills. And whereas the mission of the Newington Art League is to increase interest in the visual arts by providing stimulating demonstrations and exhibitions, to advance the visual arts while fostering a community spirit through participation in community events, and to facilitate practice of the visual arts by artists of all levels of ability and interest by providing a creative venue for artists. Whereas, after being relocated numerous times for a variety of reasons, the Newington Art League currently holds their monthly meetings at the Newington Senior and Disabled Center. And whereas, the Newington Art League has an annual member art show, which usually takes place at the Lucy Robbins Wells Library in October. And whereas the Newington Art League works in conjunction with the Newington Public Schools and has a member art show in the spring each year, which was held this year in April. And whereas the Newington Arts League participates in the annual Community Waterfall Festival, where they are also in charge of the popular chalk walk. Now, therefore, be it resolved that I, Mayor Beth Del Buono, on behalf of the Newington Town Council, hereby recognize and extend our congratulations to the Newington Art League on celebrating its 40th season, dated in Newington, Connecticut, this 23rd day of May, 2023, signed Beth Del Buono, Mayor.
Second.
Seconded by Councilor Nagel. Council discussion. Deputy Mayor Budraco.
First of all, I want to congratulate you on this occasion. And I know that the Art League serves all residents, whether they're artistic or just interested in the arts. You have exhibits, demonstrations, you support the schools in their visual arts activities, you provide workshops for artists and wannabe artists, and sponsor community events such as the chalk walk. So the activities that you provide to me are just as important as any other recreational programs that are provided in this town. But as much as things change, some things remain the same. And I know you're still struggling to acquire a space of your own here in town. Throughout your history, you were in the old BOE building on Wells Drive. Then you were moved to the town hall, the old town hall. Then you were moved to the Kellogg Eddy House. And then now you're operating between the Senior and Disabled Center and your own residence. So my hope is that you'll be able to find a space, a permanent space here in town, and you'll continue to grow and flourish for at least another 40 years.
Thank you, Deputy Mayor. Councilor Retta.
Yes, I just want to add my voice to congratulations. And I know we've been in conversations and I've learned little by little a lot more about the Art League and what you all do and kind of the struggles you've all been having, but even in the face of that, do magnificent work and, you know, offer such a great resource. You folks are a gem, excuse me, in this community. So I look forward to all the work that you're going to be doing and your exhibitions in the future and working with you to see how we can move ahead with space and continue to support all the work that you do. So thank you very much.
Thank you, Councilor Retta. Councilor Menke.
Yeah, I would thank you on thank you. I congratulate you on your 40th anniversary. I've worked pretty closely with you folks for the Chalk Walk on the Waterfall Festival. And I'm always impressed with the level of art that's drawn on the road. I think having that outlet for people gives them a chance to express themselves, and I appreciate all your efforts to make that Chalk Walk happen.
Thank you, Councilor Menke. Councilor Nagel.
Thank you. Congratulations on your 40 years. Part of that, I followed you from one place to the other that has previously been mentioned. And if you remember many years ago, those of you that are around, I supported you from the Board of Ed building, trying to find another place and then trying to find another place and was happy to try to guide or try to find a spot for you. Perseverance and quality work and devotion to the community has sustained you and the town through your ability to be a part of the town, culturally part of the town, despite having to roam from here to there. And hopefully we can find a permanent spot somewhere along the line. It's been a long journey. It's been a creative one. I've met many different friends in connection with the Art League. They still are friends. I find and I meet them from time to time in other commissions and meetings that we attend to do. It's good to see you have an interest not just in the league, but in art and culture throughout the town itself. Congratulations again.
Thank you, Councilor Nagel. Councilor Donahue.
Yeah, say congratulations to the Art League. I have many Art League pieces in my house. My wife's aunt was a member up till a few years ago when she passed away. We even have some Art League artwork in the NCTV studio that was given to us during one of our celebrations. So it's always impressive to see the work that you guys do. And I also helped him out at the Chalk Walk. I'm getting a little too old to be on my knees for that long, but thank you and congratulations.
Councilor Donahue. All right, I don't see any other hands up, so I will go ahead with our vote. All those in favor, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion passes unanimously. I'm gonna come around, and if you're here,
Motion passes 8-0.
I'm sorry.
8-0.
It is unanimous, but it's here.
Well, yeah,
Motion passes
I guess
8-0, Councilor Annis absent. They call me out on that all the time. I gotta say it every time. I feel bad for whoever's absent if it's for a real reason, which it is. Call them out on every vote. It feels not nice. Come on up. Sure, of course.
I'd like to say thank you very much. It's an honor to be receiving this birthday proclamation. And I'm happy to hear that so many people have respect for the Art League, and we hope to be doing a lot more in the community. And I am very happy to say that I think we're going to finally have an open painting session going on again, which we haven't had for some time at the Senior and Disabled Center, probably on Wednesday afternoons for folks who are interested in coming and painting.
Very nice.
The hours need to be nailed down, but I think we're moving forward.
Very nice.
Thank you very much.
All right, thank you very much. Right. The next item this evening is the proclamation for the 60th anniversary for the Newington Children's Theater. So I'll start by reading this into the record. Proclamation. Whereas in 1963, the Newington Children's Theater was formed in the Newington Parks and Recreation Department as a creative program for the town's young residents. And whereas in 2002, after nearly 40 years of operation as a town program, NCT was incorporated and received nonprofit recognition. And whereas in 2003, NCT became known as the Newington Children's Theater Company, NCTC. And in 2009, the theater changed its operating name to NCTC Performing Arts Theater. And whereas the 2011-2012 season was the first season of year-round programming for NCTC. In addition to the summer theater arts program, NCTC offers many classes, schools vacation workshops, productions, performance opportunities, and outreach. And whereas Newington Children's Theater Company strives to be leaders in engaging area youth in the power of performing arts to enrich not only their lives, but the lives around them. And whereas Newington Children's Theater Company partners with the community to create memorable theatrical experiences for children of all ages, fostering an environment of creativity, exploration, and self-expression. And whereas Newington Children's Theater Company has opportunities to perform for children as young as age 5 and for counselor team members starting at age 14. And whereas Newington Children's Theater Company had a celebration in recognition of their 60th season on April 29th at Indian Hill Country Club. Now, therefore, be it resolved that I, Mayor Beth Del Buono, on behalf of the Newington Town Council, hereby recognize and extend our congratulations to the Newington Children's Theater Company Performing Arts Theater on being Connecticut's longest-running nonprofit youth theater program and celebrating its 60th season, providing quality entertainment and hands-on educational programs in the performing arts to children and young adults. Dated in Newington, Connecticut, this 23rd day of May, 2023, signed Beth Del Buono, Mayor.
Second.
Seconded by Counselor Nagel. And we'll open it for council discussion. Deputy Mayor Badrejko, she's quick on the button.
Well, I've got a lot to say. First of all, congratulations on an amazing program, 60 years, that brought and continues to bring some positive recognition to our town. It's grown from a Parks and Rec program, in your early stages, into a program that's involved hundreds of young performers, technicians, and you've entertained thousands. In fact, I can remember, unfortunately, I was never part of your program, but I can remember the bus, like driving through town and going up to Vermont and whatever. I remember being very impressed with that. But what I just kind of want to get across is I think your impact goes beyond the obvious of teaching theater and performing, because children and young adults who participate in a program like this, they learn very valuable skills that are going to be able to be applied to any life situation or any profession. You help them improving communication skills, which is so sorely lacking now. You help them feel more self-assured and more confident in themselves and their own abilities. And they're learning skills that's going to benefit them for the rest of their lives. So I just want to congratulate you and wish you 60 more years of continued success.
Thank you, Deputy Mayor. Counselor Menke.
I would also add my congratulations. Any organization that can work with the youth and last 60 years is amazing. It's a lot of effort. I mean, to get them to do what they need to do, but it seems like they're all enjoying it. They all have a good time at it. And again, as Deputy Mayor Badrejko said, there's life lessons learned. It's not all about the acting. It's not all about the plays. It's not all about the lines in the script. It's about what you learn doing those things. That's important. And that's what'll pay dividends way into the future. So congratulations.
Thank you, Counselor. Counselor Nagel.
I'd like to congratulate you also for the many years you have been here in Newington as kind of an iconic cultural symbol for the state, let alone the region, of doing for youth performances and developing learning activities that has been mentioned previously. I have friends, even my wife, been connected with the Newington theater a few years ago, let's say, and it is part of the community, not just for those that are active in terms of students and children, but also people of all ages who cherish your being here and hope that you will continue. As a former drama coach, theater person, and person that's followed on the school side from things throughout the state, let alone throughout New England, I take great pride that you're still thriving and continuing to do the good work for Newington and for the youth in town particularly. Thank you.
Thank you, Counselor. Counselor Page?
Thank you, Mayor. I just on a personal note want to thank you so much. As you know, Christopher, thanks to Ian, his friend Ian, who introduced him, I think, to the theater and brought him along, and you welcomed Christopher and all of his friends and peers. No matter what they have to offer, you always welcome all children to participate and have a part. And thank you so much. It's meant a lot to our family. And I know to, as others have said here, hundreds, if not thousands in the community. What a wonderful organization. Thank you.
All right, I would just like to offer too, I've had the very distinct pleasure of, on the Talk to the Mayor show, having your group join us a few times, and it never ceases to amaze me that, well, first of all, your energy is amazing. It's very clear why you're so successful at getting kids involved and interested and staying involved, because your energy really keeps them engaged and certainly keeps us engaged watching. But, you know, from a perspective of someone on the outside looking in, I think the program, or we call it Newington Children's Theater, but you all bring in other communities. So you are bringing awareness to an incredibly valuable program that helps youth, not just in our community, but in others as well. And then it also brings people into our community to kind of see what we have to offer here too, like what's Newington all about. So I think it really does offer a lot in terms of the bigger scope of it. And, you know, you hear about learning and all the skills that kids learn, but I've had students along the way who have taken part in groups like this, and they might be as quiet as a church mouse in school and not speak up, not want to participate, and just be uncomfortable in their own skin. And you put them on a stage and give them a script and teach them those skills, and it brings out a totally different child. And so I have no doubt that you're doing that with a lot of the youth as well. And I'm really thankful for the program. It's really amazing to see 60 years. I said this the other day, we had something that was the veterans firefighters, 70 years, but so many organizations now, especially volunteer organizations that rely on people volunteering their time, just can't get people involved, can't keep it going and keep it sustained. But somehow you guys are still doing it and you're going strong. I'm going to come over and give you guys the mic because that's the important part. I want you to do a little commercial on some of the stuff you have coming up so people can see your energy too. But I know the murder mystery is pretty exciting. Dinner and lunch theater is pretty exciting too. But and I don't think people realize that it's year round, that your programming really goes year round. Because I used to think of it as, a couple times a year they put on a production. And then when you come on and you talk about all the things you have going on and what's all the casts and the different shows, it's really, truly amazing. So I'm really pleased you're able to be here. I have to take a vote first, so they're going to yell at me. All those in favor, please signify by saying aye. Aye. Any opposed? Motion passes 8-0. Counselor Annis absent. Sorry, Carol, they make me do it. All right. I'm going to come on around. Is that the number right there? Okay, awesome.
That's perfect because it picks up the camera to you guys.
Do you want to tell us who you have with us?
Sure, we are so fortunate. We have a good span here. So I'm going to start with Audrey. Audrey started when I think she was Ainsley's age, right? Or maybe even a little younger in one of our first programs. And she has stayed with us through our teen programs. And then we have Grace, who started, I want to say you started in our one acts, our act outs, right?
Online ones.
Online. So there was that time during COVID where we couldn't do stuff in person. So we did everything online, and Grace started with us there. And then she came to the one acts, and then she just ended a very successful run as Matilda in the musical. And Ainsley's just starting out. Ainsley has an older brother who I think kind of paved the way for Ainsley to join us. And she's in our 5 to 7-year-old programs.
Welcome, guys.
And this is Christy Francesco, our board president.
All right, so let me present this to you all. Up here.
There you go. Just look like you're on stage.
All right.
Can we do them with the adults and not work members of the board?
You want me to sit out?
Yeah.
You guys come on up. I'll scoot out. You can have your photo up.
I like to do that.
I'm gonna block you. Let me come back.
What are you in the front?
Practice.
There you go.
All right.
You gotta decide where you're gonna look.
All right, we're looking at Andy. Andy's on our board too. We didn't-
Oh, okay.
Thank you so much.
Wonderful. Thank
I want to say the word patience too. As you were talking, Mayor, I was thinking, we all have some patience.
All right, and we do have one more proclamation this evening for the retirement of Officer Jerry Lacoste. And Officer Lacoste is not with us this evening, so we will make sure that he gets receipt of this after the meeting. Proclamation, whereas Jerry Lacoste was hired as a police officer for the town of Newington on August 13th, 2007, and whereas Officer Jerry Lacoste transferred to support services on August 25th, 2014, and whereas on May 2nd, 2022, Officer Jerry Lacoste transferred to public safety dispatcher. And whereas in January 2009, Officer Jerry Lacoste received a letter of recognition for quick response and collective efforts in locating and effecting the arrest of a burglary suspect. And whereas Officer Jerry Lacoste received Arrest Investigation of the Month in March 2011. And whereas in January and August 2012, Officer Jerry Lacoste was recognized for proactive patrol enforcement. And whereas Officer Jerry Lacoste received the Meritorious Service Award in February of 2013. And whereas in April 2013, Officer Jerry Lacoste received Bloomfield Police Chief's Commendation for Presidential Motorcade Detail. And whereas Officer Jerry Lacoste received a written commendation for the highest number of narcotic arrests by one officer in 2013 through March of 2014. And whereas Officer Jerry Lacoste received various emails of recognition from police department heads. And whereas on June 11th, 2014, Officer Jerry Lacoste was recognized in the Newington Town Crier for helping out a stranded family. And whereas Officer Jerry Lacoste received commendation letters from surrounding police departments, including Weathersfield and Bloomfield. And whereas Officer Jerry Lacoste received various letters of appreciation from residents, business owners, citizens, AMR staff, Webster Bank, Price Chopper, Master Pools by Rizzo, and Town of Newington department heads. And whereas after 15 plus years of experience and 15 plus years of service, Officer Jerry Lacoste retired from the Newington Police Department on April 28th, 2023. And now therefore be it resolved that the Newington Town Council hereby recognizes and extends its sincere appreciation to Officer Jerry Lacoste for his professional service and dedication to the town and wishes him the best in his retirement. Dated in Newington, Connecticut, this 23rd day of May, 2023, signed Beth Del Buono, Mayor.
Second.
Seconded by Councilor Rada. And discussion, councilors. Deputy Mayor Pedrejko.
Although Officer Lacoste isn't here tonight, I just want to recognize that throughout his 15 years of service to the town, he performed numerous tasks that were important to the success of the police department there. And it's quite obvious from the proclamation that while he was performing those duties, he was recognized with numerous accolades, commendations, recognitions, and letters, which were a testament on how well he performed his responsibilities here in Newington. So I just want to thank him for his service to the department and for all the residents of Newington, and wish him well in whatever his next venture is.
Thank you, Deputy Mayor. Councilor Page.
Thank you, Mayor. I just wanted to thank Officer Lacoste for his service to our town. And as we regularly will say, Officer Lacoste and all of his colleagues are going into places of danger and uncertainty, nights, weekends, holidays, while we're safe at home. we're doing whatever we're doing, getting on with our lives, and they're keeping us safe and maintaining our quality of life here in town. So thank you very much for your service. Wish you the best.
Thank you, Counselor Page. I would just like to extend my sincere congratulations on your retirement and moving on. I wish you the very best in whatever you choose to do in the next steps after this. And I just want to thank you for your service to our town. As you can see by all those accolades, you certainly were a valuable member of our department, and we wish you all the best. Thank you, Officer Lacasse. All right, and I'll give that to you after the meeting to make sure that he gets that. All those in favor, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion passes 8-0. Counselor Ennis absent. All right, counselors, we are moving on now to presentations this evening, and you'll see at your desk, we were provided with a physical copy of the 2023 Community Assessment Survey results. We have some folks from Great Blue Research here with us to review the results. Would you folks like to come on up? Welcome. So just for the members of the public, we did do a town survey where folks were, we had several ways to access the survey over time. There were QR codes and emails and all kinds of ways for folks to access and provide feedback on the survey. And tonight we're able to hear the results. So the floor is yours.
Well, thank you, everybody, Mayor and council members. We appreciate the time and the business, and we really enjoyed working with you over this entire process. So tonight, yeah, as the mayor said, is to go over the results of the 2023 residential satisfaction survey that we conducted on your behalf. So just quickly about what we'll go over tonight. Quickly, we'll just touch on Great Blue. I believe most of you were on the sort of the meetings and the presentations originally, so have a little bit of an understanding of who we are. We'll do an overview of the project. We'll talk about some of the demographics and methodologies, and then my colleague, Chris. Oh, by the way, I'm Brady Lee, by the way. Let's do introductions first. I jumped right into it.
Yeah, hi, everyone. I'm Chris Biggs as well.
So sorry about that. So Chris will go over the key study findings, really the important pieces, and then we'll talk about considerations, our recommendations. We're totally happy to take questions throughout the entire time if you'd like to interrupt us, or we'll just keep going and you can ask at the end. Either one, either way is totally fine. So just quickly, Great Blue Research, we are a national market research firm. We're located here in Glastonbury. We are very focused on quantitative and qualitative research, and amongst a variety of key industries. We work a lot with municipalities, both as a whole and also various departments here locally in Connecticut, but also across the country. So we have a lot of experience doing this. The studies we do are all built based on our experience with others, but also the goals and objectives that you all had, and I'll touch on that a little bit more. So we were commissioned by you all really to establish a baseline and dive in and understand what your residents here in town, where their thoughts were on a variety of topics, on services, overall satisfaction, perceptions of living here in the town, different where their interest levels are or are not for different services and programs that you have. We use a variety of different methodologies, as the mayor stated. This was sent far and wide throughout the town, a variety of methods to collect data, and then ultimately, our goal with the outcome here is that the town managers, people that run the town, and you all can use the data to make decisions, be successful. That's ultimately our goal. A lot of times we work with clients. Some clients just need the data to check a box, and that's fine. We really like it when we can work with clients that can use the data. That's the goal. We hope you can be successful and have some real insight here. So that's ultimately the goal for us. Just quickly, and this is really what the focus more on where the survey, what ultimately the questions were sort of based upon. We looked at reasons for living in Newington, satisfaction with different characteristics of town services, preferred priorities, communication preferences, engagement preferences, perception awareness of various town-related services. Again, we work closely with James and other members of his team, and I know there was input from variety of departments just on the questions. So the questions were very much in line with what's going on here in town now and the information that you all wanted now, as opposed to what, another town was interested in. Any initial questions?
I don't have any hands up on my screen, so that's a good sign. It's like Jeopardy up here. They buzz in and I have to call on them. Go ahead, Counselor
Maybe if you
Page.
could just say a word or two, and maybe you're getting there, about confidence and the value of this
Yep.
from the statistical standpoint.
Here, so perfect time.
Okay,
Yeah.
thanks.
And I'm sure there'll be a number of questions on this. I'll do my best to explain it and then happy to answer further questions. So there's a lot of talk when we started this process about how we were going to collect the data. Were we going to do it by telephone, digital, by paper? And ultimately we came in, recommended that we use digital, we say digital, collecting data via, options of providing feedback digitally on smartphones, computers, tablets. We made that recommendation for a variety of reasons. And that's ultimately what was decided. It allows us to communicate the survey and distribute it via a variety of different methods. We use some lists of about 17,000 or so, I believe was the size combined from different departments, lists of email addresses of residents. We sent out postcards in the mail to half of the households at random. And also, as was mentioned, I believe there were some QR codes and different links that were posted. Ultimately, the goal was to get it in front of as many residents as possible and give them the option to select to take the survey. Now, what ultimately our typical goal when we do a study like this with a town of your size, which you have, I believe, just over 30,000 residents, is that correct? So when you really get to about 20,000, 25,000, a population of that size or above, we like to get a minimum of 400 completed surveys. That really gives us the margin for error that we're after, which is less than 5%, about 4.5%. That we say is a 95% confidence level. So if we did the study 100 more times, 95 out of 100, the data statistically would fall within 4.5 to 5%, either plus or minus. So ultimately, we were able, by using the methodology, we were able to achieve greater, higher, better than that by achieving almost 650 completed responses. So that was something we're very happy with. It's very positive, and also just meant that the margin for error came down. It was less than 5%. It was less than 4% here. So overall, we were happy with that. And also as I'll show on the next couple slides, one of our goals and what we've seen over the past couple of years doing things digitally is we've been seeing much better representations of towns, populations, demographically when we do this. When we collected data via telephone, which was for a very long time was the primary way that we did this, we started to see the age ranges skew older, so that's not always a true representation. So by doing it digitally, and again, I'll show it on the next couple of slides, we really were able to achieve a very close to what the census data is from the past. Going back to 2020, it's pretty representative. So that was great for and we're happy to get that. And also there's probably there may be some questions. Oh, I see a hand raised here. Oh no, sorry, that's it. If I want to listen. So yeah, any questions on that piece there? Does that cover everything? Okay, great, perfect. The next two slides are a bit on the demographics. Again, age and race was very much in line demographically from where you are at right now. When you look at age, when you look at any of the demographics, really, you also have to take into account that demographics or census data measures those, age 0 to 18. This doesn't, so that changes, that weights the numbers a little bit differently. Some of these might be a little bit higher than where you see in the census, or a little bit lower, but that essentially takes that into account. And we were within 5 to 7% on almost every criteria. So again, very positive, and that just shows that we were able to collect data overall from essentially a representation of your entire population. And same thing here. This slide here looks at income, education, employment status, and political affiliation. And really the big ones there that we look at are income and then education. And again, was very much in line with what we've seen on the census data, and how that plays out. So that, I'll turn it over to Chris, which is the next piece, which is I'm sure the part you're most interested in is all of the key study findings and all the data that we were able to collect.
Thank you, Brady. And thank you all for your time tonight. We have quite a few slides, so some slides we might move through a little bit more quickly so that we can get to some of the meat and potatoes. So I'll start with the key study findings. So basically what we've done here is we've broken down the areas of the research. So satisfaction, perceptions, police department, and some of the other services that we looked at. What I'll do is touch on one bullet from each of these sections, and then we'll get into the charts and graphs where you can see a little bit more of the details. So the good news is we'll take the first bullet under satisfaction perception is people really like living here. Majority of residents, 85.6% rated overall quality of life in Newington is either excellent or good. And so just a great measure to start today's presentation. And it couldn't be further from the truth from what we saw earlier today with those proclamations. From the police department, I'll just pull out the first bullet. There's a strong agreement among residents about statements on trust and confidence in the police and statements about feeling safe in the neighborhoods. Get into the detail on that a little bit more during the day and at night. You'll see a little bit of a difference there, but we'll see that in the coming slides. When we looked at human services departments as well as communications engagement, again, I'll take the first bullet. And again, if you're reading this, if you want to stop me and say, hey, what's this other bullet about? Happy to walk you through some of the other bullets on this page. Okay, so the first bullet here under Human Services Department, respondents found positive development youth programs at 42.5% and youth and family counseling at 25.4% is the most valuable services of the Human Services Department provides. What you'll see when we get to that slide is some of the other services that we did ask about. Communications, consumers want to be communicated through email. The role of the website, we'll talk about it a little bit more in detail, but that's not surprising. Email seems to be the driver these days of the way to communicate. And then we'll talk about on the next slide on priorities and initiatives. When we asked about issues, which issues should be the top 3 priorities for the town to address, respondents indicated preserving the open space at 53%, and over a third of residents believe preserving the town character, and then minimizing the environmental impact from development should be the top priorities. So really wonderful priorities when you think about the character of the town and preserving it. So those are some of the key findings. We'll get into more of the details, but do you want, I can stop here and take any questions.
Yes. I would just say, when I think of surveys, many times, just my opinion is that folks respond because they've got maybe something to complain about, or they're upset about something, which is legit, and they have a right. Of course, we want that feedback, but it's impressive that so many people responded and so many people responded positively. I don't know if you want to comment on that.
Yeah, you're absolutely right. Usually people either really like something or really don't like something. And what we found here is people really, I think what is really nice about it is I feel that there's a lot of honesty in their reaction. So you'll see, again, there are places where they'll lean in and give you some good insights on how they're feeling about certain issues and questions that we ask. But you're right. I mean, but what a wonderful city and town to talk to come back and have these great comments. So,
and that's just quickly, that's something that we have seen across the board over the past couple of years, because you're spot on. For a long time, it really was, like we said, it was people responding because they were very upset or they were very happy. And it's been great that we started to really see across the board that, especially when we work with municipalities or companies that, if you have a customer and they're paying bills, there's ownership there, they live there. And I think that also got across in a lot of the communications is that, look, you live here, you care about the place that you live. We want to use this feedback to make decisions. And if you don't, it's like if you don't vote. So you can't have a voice if you don't vote. So we've seen that across the board, and it's great to see it here as well.
Yeah, and I just want to, yeah, sorry.
I'm just kind of curious about one thing here. First of all, are you going to be meeting with the department heads that like the police or the human services or whatever?
I don't know if it's planned, but it's not an added cost or anything, so we can absolutely do so.
Planned at this time.
I think it would be a good idea for some of the answers to the questions, because one I'm looking at in particular Under key study findings, the very last bullet, over 2/5 of the respondents, 45%, were not familiar with the senior and disabled centers, programs and services. I find that really interesting, disturbing, whatever, because first of all, a lot of the respondents were of age of where they could utilize the senior center services. Second of all, we pride ourselves, and it's true, we have a wonderful senior and disabled center who offers like tons of programs, whatever, they're very active. So why this was, almost 50% of the respondents had no clue about what's going on. I think that's an important thing to drill down.
Yeah, we will share you with, once we get to those slides, we have a little bit more detail when we break it out by the age. So those that can take advantage of those services have a higher recognition of those services, but it's an excellent point. One of the things that we're testing in our considerations is to amplify the communications about the programs. It's a positive to say, look, we've got these great programs. People do like them, and just get the word out. So absolutely, we'll talk about that when we get to that section.
And I think you can also schedule a time with all the departments. I think would be half hour or something.
We were waiting for the report to the council, and then we were going to be meeting with each of the departments on their sections of the survey.
Okay, thank you.
All right, we'll move on. So now we'll get into some of the slides with the graphs that can really demonstrate what we're saying. I think this slide speaks for itself. You can see that overwhelmingly this is that 85.6%. Have very positive feelings about the town. We really didn't see anybody saying anything negative whatsoever. So very positive here on this slide. In terms of quality of life, we started to look a little bit deeper into what they're satisfied, what types of programs are most satisfied. The question itself is, with each of the following characteristics of the town service, please rate how satisfied you are with the town's ability to serve its residents in these areas. And the top three were fire and emergency services, library services, and snow plowing, right below leaf collection, sanitation services. So the highest level, so this is all satisfied together, but just as a next footnote, if you'll notice in the bullets there, the highest level is very satisfied responses. We continue to see fire and emergency services 75.1%, snow plowing still up there, in library services. So even when we broke it out and looked at those like very satisfied, those still popped. This is where we saw a little bit of that like honesty coming through, let's say, is that there's some dissatisfaction with the town website and some of the road maintenance.
Not just the residents, some of us here are dissatisfied with the town website. We agree on that.
69%.
We agree. We're working on it.
It's good to see.
But that's good to hear that's consistent.
They're aware of whether they've
We've heard
communicated or
that,
not,
yeah.
or especially the website.
I'm glad it came through here though. So, we hear from a few people. So this is good for us to hear that there's a bigger portion that are taking notice of those same things.
Yeah, it's a significant amount of response. And then just overall though, just to pat yourself on the back, basically 10 out of the 12 services garnered satisfaction levels, so for 90%. So
Great.
Again, very positive. So then we asked questions on basically, what are the primary reasons you initially chose to live in Newington? And on the next slide, we'll show you what primary reasons why people stay in Newington. And so the top three responses were proximity to work and employment, quality of schools, and birthplace family connections. One bullet that I did want to point out here is quality of schools was a primary reason respondents chose to live in Newington at a higher frequency with those younger audiences, which would make sense because they have children. So 35 to 44, 58.1%, and 45 to 54, 56%. So nearly 1 out of every 2 people in those age ranges is really saying this is the place to be when it comes to schools, which is great. On the next slide, unless there's any questions on this, because I found this really fascinating. When you compare it to the next slide, though, is this why do people stay? You see again, proximity to work, family friendliness, strength of the community came through as number 2. and then the quality of schools. So I think we really were happy to see that about the strength of the community. Again, one of the interesting things is the last bullet on this slide, which is that retirement age respondents 65 and older. There's an uptick in frequencies of the community offerings at 25%, and the affordability of housing at 25%. So basically, one in four, 65 or older, we're citing that as one of the reasons why they stay. But again, that family friendliness and strength of the community is really up significantly. Reasons why people stay. So, are there any questions on those two slides? They're nice companion slides.
Good.
All right, good. All right, so I mentioned this earlier in the upfront section, prioritization of the environment. So the question is this: thinking about the overall issues facing Newington, which of the following, in your opinion, should be the top 3 priorities? So we see here over 50% are saying preserving that open space. Nearly 2/5 are saying preserving the town character. And then about one third are saying minimizing the environmental impacts. So again, this is probably not uncommon with people that are passionate about their communities and preserving them. Okay, this was a fun question. Is we we looked at the we gave people options. So about the town hall schedule. So we put in the survey the previous schedule, we put in the current schedule, and then we offered a couple new options. And good news, everyone likes the current schedule. So overwhelming, you can see option 2 here, most preferred 41%. Combining that with the choice number 2, it's the standout option. Option 4 was clearly not well liked, but least preferred. They want access 5 days a week, and they like the change that you've done. If there was another way of thinking about it, it would be option 1, which was your schedule in the past, which almost makes sense because people were used to that schedule prior to. So good news there. Okay, so now we're going to get into questions around police trust and neighborhood safety. So nearly 90% of respondents agreed with the statement. I have trust and confidence in the town of Newington's police department. With respect to the statement, the Newington Police Department attempts to develop relationships with residents, organizations, and groups. We saw a very high level of agreement with that as well, at 75%. There was but we did notice that there was a little bit of a higher, I don't know, or I'm unsure. So just something to take note of. There was an uptick, and this is where it's just the interesting thing between night and day, right? So if you look at the 2 bar charts to the right? So I feel safe in my neighborhood during the day, and then to the furthest on the right is I feel safe in my neighborhood at night. You can see that there's a little bit, the green is the negative, and so there's an uptick. It's about 15% of those who responded felt disagreed with that statement of feeling safe at night. But overall, you're looking at night, the response at night, 84.7% of people are saying they feel safe, and then during the day, 96.2%. So, any questions on this slide? Yes.
Yeah, I guess the statement about Newington Police Department attempts to develop relationships with residents, organizations, and groups. I'm wondering, I know the chief has repeatedly said it's tough to hire. They've been short-staffed and challenged. I'm just wondering, maybe we can have conversations with them about, given how short-staffed they've been, do they have opportunities where they can spare an hour or 2 here or there to have those community conversations? I imagine they're outstretched pretty tight, but that may be something just to talk about.
That might be an answer to how to improve that number. Yes.
Yeah, we can certainly
have more conversations, but I know I'm always impressed, especially in the summertime. I think when our officers are out and about, you'll see Facebook posts of like our officers pulling up and playing a basketball game with some kids in the neighborhood and stuff. So
functions.
Yeah, and I know when the chief was hired years ago now, but I remember him saying community policing was such a priority for him to make sure that officers were out and being seen. So it may be a matter of staffing if that is, or it may just be that I also wonder in terms of like making appearances at community events, are these folks that are at the same events too? Like, there may be some discrepancy with folks that don't attend as many things. I don't know, it's hard to say, or some people that were unsure of that, if they're just not out and about as much, but I guess it depends on the population that answered it, but those are certainly conversations we should continue to have based on the results.
The 90% is positive.
Yeah, for sure.
Confidence.
Mhm.
Proclamation tonight showed that dedication to the community and that
Mm.
recognition as
Right,
well.
yeah.
Absolutely. Did your survey, like in connection with this in particular comes up, track areas of the town from those who responded, or was that not part of the survey? Because we find there are areas, some areas of the town where crime is higher than others traditionally, and then more recently we've found that it's more widespread in terms of certain kinds of things. Did you track anything like that, or is that just too specific to?
No, that was not part of the demographic questions.
Okay, it was a question.
It's certainly something we've done in the past, but for this, yeah, we didn't do that yet.
Okay, thank you.
So the next question had to do with what are the public safety concerns? And overwhelmingly, the response was car break-ins and stolen vehicles. So you're seeing that basically 88% of those. Burglaries, about 50%, one out of every two people said that would be a concern of theirs. I think so those are the areas that of most concern. Now we had two questions, utilizing a school resource officer at Newington High School. So you can see that there's strong support for doing that. Almost 70% of those responding said so. The next question was very interesting, was exploring the concept of sending social workers in place of police officers to calls involving youth or people in crisis. And what we did see is a little bit of a mixed response there, but overall, there was a support of that by 65.5%. So when you combine those who were strongly somewhat supported. So it's an interesting area to explore further when it comes to the information that we saw there, because it was just that one question that we asked about that subject. Okay, so the next questions, which of the following, I'm going to take the question to the left, which is which of the following services provided by the town of Newington's Human Services Department are most valuable to you? And what we saw was the top three were the positive development youth programs, youth and family counseling, and affordable healthcare as the programs. And then what we asked is this, the question to the right, which is very interesting. How many times over the past 3 years have you utilized those human services programs? What we saw is a large percent haven't. That might not surprise you, but just given that some of the programs that we've listed to the left, it's very interesting that the quality of the programs that are available to individuals.
I think that's based on, I guess, people citing the programs that are most important based on their experience with folks they know that utilize them then, if they're not the ones utilizing it. It's kind of an interesting result, right? It's hard to say probably, but I guess if you have to pick the ones that we would rank, you would rank the ones that you would rank whether you utilize them or not, I suppose,
Right,
because
so,
you have to,
yeah.
you have to make that choice. I know the survey wouldn't let you kind of continue unless you.
Yeah, what was interesting, because you're bringing up an interesting point, the survey did have an out, none, I've not used those services, and we saw a small percent saying that. So there is a response, there was a response that was generated as they were looking at these questions, saying these are valuable.
4%, yep.
And so,
Okay,
yeah, it's a great point.
interesting,
Yeah.
yeah.
And then
Counselor Page.
I don't know, thanks, Mayor. I don't know if this is helpful or not, or if this is something you do, but all these numbers, as we're learning them, are very interesting and helpful. Do you take this data and then compare it to similar towns of plus or minus 30,000, similar income levels, demographics, blah, blah, blah? Is that valuable to look contextually at other towns that you've studied, or?
Yeah, we've certainly done it, and we certainly can do it. That's something you'd like. Yeah, absolutely. There's a few questions or a few data points. We can look at data that we have. We don't have a national database per se, but we've worked with tons of other, companies. We'd be happy to look at that. Not companies, or municipalities would be happy to do that.
Yeah, just with this question that we're looking at right now, it's striking to me that so few folks have used the services I mean, that seems like a big number that haven't. And is that typical for a town this size?
Probably is.
And it may be, I don't know. So is that something we should be concerned about?
Yeah, no,
Or not, I don't know.
I believe it probably is typical, but I don't want to guarantee that without us taking a look at some other examples. Absolutely, we can do that.
Okay.
Thanks.
So basically, these next two questions, which of the, I'm gonna read the two questions so that you can see what we're doing as we compare the two charts. So to the left, which of the following do you identify as the most prevalent youth support need? And then to the right, which of the following do you identify as the most prevalent adult support need? So you have youth on the left and adults on the right, and you see anxiety is one of the big three. So we like to, in research world, look at the top three responses. You can see with youth, you have bullying, social media, and anxiety. And then for adults, you're seeing anxiety, financial stress is really standing out. And then the availability of affordable housing. Doesn't stand out as much as that anxiety piece, which is interesting for both groups. And then there is a bullet on this slide that I just take a close look at as well. It says respondents between the ages of 18 to 24 and 25 to 34 reported anxiety. 51% was more prevalent. Was the more prevalent support needed. So again, we're just seeing anxiety and that may be just as my own observation. It could be coming out of that COVID reality of seeing. And the topic of anxiety has been really more prevalent. So people are more honest about that as well. So it's very interesting. So we now will turn to libraries, which my mom is a volunteer at libraries. So this is always, questions like this are always dear to my heart. So we asked, this is a fun question to you. What library programs, services, or offerings are most important to you? So we're looking at the types of titles, and on the left, what you see is new or popular fiction, nonfiction titles. Third of people are looking for those, general information services, and then lifelong learning. Some of the things that we like to do on a chart like this is look down at the bottom, like consumer information, business and career information, not as important to people, which almost makes sense because of the access that you have to the web to that. So on the left, if the library were to renovate or expand, what would you like to see? They'd like to see more technology areas. And then followed by larger children's areas, which is really tied with the meeting spaces and a dedicated teen space. So, which is nice to see that libraries are still having that relevancy of being a community gathering place. Okay, so this can be a kind of a contentious headline, right? Pools over courts. But the question here is, please rank your level of interest in the following facilities that are under consideration for development. What we saw overwhelmingly is pool relevance at Mill Pond and Churchill, which were really stood out. And then to the right, what we saw was that less interest in the outdoor basketball court, lighted, and the outdoor pickle courts. So I don't know if this surprises you to see. But a fun question, no less. Okay, so we're going to move into the senior and disabled center questions. We'll start with on the right. We have what senior and disabled centers activities and services are most important to you. They're the big three, as we like to say. Physical activity services really ranked almost 1 out of every 2 respondents. Programs or classes for older adults, and then transportation services coming in at nearly 2/5 of responses. And this is the point that you were making earlier, starting to look at, dive into, are you aware of those services? And yeah, we did see that there was a increase with about nearly a half of those respondents said they weren't. But here's where I wanted you to take a look at that last bullet here. So not familiar at all, frequency drops. 55 or older, changes. So when we're looking at 55 to 64, we're saying we see it drop to 34%, 65 to 74 to 20%, and then 75 or older at 17. So to the people that are using the services, there's greater awareness. But there's always a need when we think about the larger population to make sure that they're aware of these programs. But hopefully that gives you a little bit more reassurance that the word is getting out.
Thank you.
Okay, so the next slide, expanded transportation services. So on the left, what we have is which additional programs or services would you like to see offered to older adults? And then to the right, we asked the same question, but it is to adults with disabilities. And we did see a little bit of the same and a little bit of a difference. So in both cases, people are talking about the expanded transportation services being important. They're obviously much more a priority for those adults with disabilities. That was the #1 reason. It was the second in the question of just older adults. In the older adults, they were looking for adult education courses, i.e. foreign language or instrument lessons. And then and you can see these really spike here. This is basically 3/4 of people saying that that's what they'd like to see. Staying with the older adults in general, evening and Saturday programs and services, which is also the second most important thing for adults with disabilities. So, interesting insights on this slide for sure. And this is where we start to talk about that lack of awareness, right? The lack of awareness is essentially the biggest barrier, right? So on the right, you see what barriers, if any, are using the senior or disabled center, awareness of the offer. So basically 1/5 are saying that. And then there's time of day. The good thing is that that's not as significant as the awareness of offerings. So there is a huge opportunity in communicating what's available to have participation. In terms of how would people like to participate, it's nice to see people want to do it in person again. It's nice to be in room with people. And it makes sense because it's awful difficult to participate, especially on like something like Zoom. So
Is it safe to say that based on the overall response to how people like to get information about town services, which I think was email, that then we can conclude necessarily that the folks who may be inclined to use the senior disabled center services would also want to get it by email, or would they prefer, for example, a paper document, which I know costs money, so I'm not suggesting we do that right away, but in the mail with a card or a flyer, or maybe that's for the senior disabled center folks who may already know how best to communicate or improve that. But
well, one of the things that we could do is we could, in cross tabulation, identify those who indicated that they senior with disabilities and look at their communication preference, so we could get an exact answer from this survey for you, so that we're not guessing. I would say the overwhelming response is using email and then just keeping your website up to date. So those are the two areas that people are turning to, but we can actually get that answer for you.
We can drill into that audience, no problem.
And again, to Councilor Deputy Mayor Draco's point, or whoever said that, maybe to have, I think you did, to have those folks have this conversation so they could increase awareness and utilization. Sorry, go ahead.
I just would add that, I guess because I belong, those people who are members of or qualify for the senior and disabled center do get emails on a regular basis. I get email once a week that I breeze through. So we do get emails if you're on the list, but if you're a member, I guess.
What is interesting then is that maybe it's an opportunity to audit those emails and figure out how you prioritize some of the communications to create greater awareness. But also the other thing is, again, if we want to, we can look more specifically at those cross tabulations to see if there's anything that like pops for you.
But I think it'd be important for the community as a whole to know even though they may not qualify as a member, for the center, it'd be interesting for the community at whole to know what goes on there so that they can be proud of what happens there. I mean, I may not access the services, but I'd like to know that we have those services should I ever want to access them, you know?
Right.
Or something to look forward to as I get older, I can access the services. That's
It is one of our considerations is to elevate the communications through email. So we are almost through, so I appreciate all the time that you've given to us tonight. This is again, another one of those fun questions is basically which days or hours would you most likely attend programs at the Senior Disabled Center? The way to best look at this is if you look at the chart on the left is like your top 5, and if you'll notice the first 3 bars have to do with the day Friday. So from basically the start to finish, it's Friday, and then if you look to the bottom 5 to the right, you'll see Thursday is just not the day. So so just like Friday, it's from the start to finish. Thursdays is start to finish do not. So we did notice a little bit of that Monday morning as well. So start the week or end the week. So
What else is going on in town on Thursdays that people are more likely to take advantage of?
To think about.
The NCTV meeting. Gotta be the NCTV meeting. It's gotta
Must be.
Must be.
I was thinking concerts, but that's in the evening, but yeah, it's interesting.
That is interesting. Folks who might use the services, are they more vulnerable to social isolation? And therefore are Mondays and Fridays more conducive to them wanting to get out and access services out?
Yeah.
But anyway.
It's probably spending time with the grandkids over the weekend.
They want to
They want to get out.
That's it. Do it. They want to be isolated.
They want to be isolated. That's it.
That could be in.
Well, it would also be a fun way to start the week, kick off the weekend with
True.
a nice day on a Friday with peers. So here's the question that we can definitely dig into regarding any cross tabulations, but this is emails by and large the most preferred communication source. After that, it's town website, and then to your point earlier about direct mail, that's another way to connect with them. People are using social media, basically 1/3. You can't ignore it. That's what we always advise. You have to be there. You have to have a presence, especially with an older audience looking at Facebook. I spent many years working in advertising and marketing before this, and Facebook is the place to be for that my age and above. And what's interesting here though is, and maybe this is to your point, is that newsletters fall down, whereas email is up on top. So one of the things that you might think about is if the email is coming across more as a newsletter, they may not be paying attention to it as much as something that's more immediate with an email that's a little bit more emotional. And then last but not least, we have just one more slide and then a couple of slides of considerations. But featured parks and this is really just questions on what kind of information would you like to see on the website, parks and recreation information, recycling information, and library services really popped. And then there are a little bit 2 different types of questions on this slide, but for the purposes, that's what we were looking at for the website. And then we did ask, when was the last time you attended a meeting, a public meeting? And what we heard is basically about 1/3 of individuals had attended a meeting in the last year. And another 1/3 has said they never did. Maybe that doesn't surprise you. But that concludes the research piece. I'll go into my conclusions, but if there's any questions, be happy to answer them now.
I would just say one comment. I'm just surprised that 1/3 have attended a meeting in the last year. No,
Right.
only because, and not maligning our community, but participation, but because if this is, and I have no doubt based on your research that this is reflective of our community, that seems like a high number.
I was gonna ask if anecdotally, you just from being in the room here, if you've experienced that. Yeah.
Well, it could also be because a lot of the meetings over the past were on Zoom.
Yeah.
So a lot more people
Oh,
attended
right,
Zoom
of course.
meetings, right? But in person, right? I think if you did this 2 years from now, you're gonna see,
Yeah.
right?
That could have been a follow-up question. We didn't think through that, but just to ask if people had attended on Zoom or in person.
Have quoted attended by watching it on NCTV.
By watching a replay. Yeah.
Where they've not participated, but they just happen to be channel surfing and found that I'm gonna stay and watch it for a couple minutes, and they might count that as attending, even though they
Yeah.
haven't been here.
Yeah, we did, or if you can see the question is in person or via video
okay.
conference,
Yeah.
so.
Right.
So if we had broken that down, yeah, it might be
Oh, that makes
interesting to
sense.
see.
I think a lot of people, especially on Facebook, we see comments from folks that are commenting on meetings, but we know they weren't here in attendance or even on our Zoom, right? So they're probably rewatching them. I think that's what we see a lot of.
And there seems to be some hesitation in terms of people being in public. If they are here, doesn't necessarily mean they have to say something or they have to take the side. It's.
But that is an interesting stat, because it's not what we see in terms of our meetings, but there's lots of town meetings.
Yeah.
People could be participating certainly in a wide
point,
variety of
too.
ways. It's not just certainly ours, and ours are probably more of the boring meetings.
Yeah, it could be
It's-
parks.
I'm
and-
honest,
yeah, it
right?
could be
No, that's.
But like
Conservation.
Parks and Rec or, you know,
Library.
other community meetings,
There's so many boards.
there
and
are so
commissions, you're
many-
right, Yeah.
so many ways to participate. So hopefully that stat is very accurate. People are participating to that level.
So we have 4 considerations, and most of these are gonna be obvious, probably most of these. Consider website improvements based on the residents' feedback. I won't read the whole piece, but the big thing is there, we saw that, you know, Parks and Rec information, get that out. Like, there's basic, you know, daily things like recycling information, but also Parks and Rec will get more engagement in the community as well.
No, excuse me, I do find that interesting though, because I think of any department at all, Parks and Recreation has the most different and varied ways of communicating. I mean, they're on Facebook, they've got catalogs that go on like 2 or 3 times a year. They're on our website. They have signs, you know, in the center of town. It's just,
That's true.
it's very
But
interesting.
maybe that's it too, that's why people are going there. So maybe they are the driving force of what to look at for the rest of the site though, because that was the #1 reason why people were going to the website as well, was the Parks and Rec. So maybe that's like, take a look at what they're doing and see what types of communications that they're putting out.
People come to the town website, but then they just get a link to the Park and Rec website. It's not part of our website.
And it could be too, that if you're planning to attend a park, like a concert in the park, and you want to know if it's canceled because of the rain, you would go to the website to see if it's canceled, because there might be no
Typically,
update.
we see it as a first line of defense, so
Yeah.
it's where people go first to
Right.
try to get the information that they want. If they don't get it there, they'll either stop looking or they'll try to go, they may go somewhere else.
Okay.
The next bullet is just raise awareness of the specific departments and programs. We've talked about that as well. It's just that there's a lot of great things going on in this community. Just look at the ways that you can communicate that. Again, the feedback here is use email, so that would be one way to do it. We'll get on the next slide is, we think that there's a real opportunity to continue to do this on an annual basis, just to keep it, like as Brady mentioned at the beginning, this is really nice benchmark to start to see as we come out of COVID too. You'll maybe start to see some things change in terms of how people want to engage. And it will help you understand and measure where you've made improvements based on what you've heard tonight. And then last but not least, and we've talked about this, there's a lot of good information in this. So share the data with the community. Thank them for what they've shared with you. And so that was our last recommendation. We think it's really a nice survey and a nice testament to what a great community people live in here.
On 33, slide 33, was that a typo or is that meant to be a continuation onto the next one? Finally, when communicating the various departments.
Yeah, it looks like it got cut off for some reason, yeah.
No, it's fine. Maybe it was
Yeah.
just a concluding statement. but-
Yeah, it was basically use email.
There you go, okay.
Yeah, so,
Okay.
yeah, I'm sorry, I don't know why that's.
I think with email being the strong, outlier here, the preferred method, it's obviously continuing to communicate the service and such, but there's probably also should be some emphasis on communicating participation in the email list, for the seniors, getting more people aware of it, getting them on the list. That will ultimately, help drive, their awareness of it by first, getting them on the email list. So.
Questions, or thoughts, comments?
I still think this is gonna be
Good piece of
very
work.
useful to, because we're having a new town manager come on very soon. We have a relatively new town planner. We'll have a new town engineer.
Yeah.
We have some very staff hired within a year, some high-level staff, and going over this with them, I think will give them just some general insight, particularly I think that whether it's, engineering or, it's the senior center, communication seems to be a key point
Yep.
that's going through all of this. So something for them to think about.
We're happy to, meet via Zoom or in person with any of those departments, those individuals to review this, answer questions, the follow-up data points, it's all included. So if in 6 months you say, hey, can you dive into this data point and those ages, or if it's next week or tomorrow, we're happy to do that. Just reach out to us. So, that's easy for us. It usually takes a couple hours, but 24, 48 hours, we can turn the numbers around.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Thank
you very much. This
Appreciate
really
it.
will help us. I think you hit it on the head with new staff as well as existing staff, just giving us direction on where we need to be making changes and moving forward. So this is what we were hoping for. I didn't see anything in here that I was like, no huge surprise, but it's very validating too, that some of the concerns that we have identified are coming forward as true concerns for the majority of our community. So that gives us more focus to know that we really do need to start really focusing on some of those things. So yeah, thank you.
Yeah, and then with the like I said, we can benchmark it, and then eventually, if you'd like to measure it, then you put some different initiatives in place, and then we can come back and do this again, and then you can start to see, okay, we've moved here, we haven't moved there, and you can really now you have a way to really track it and really understand where your efforts are clearly working, but now you have a way to validate it.
Right.
Nice.
Okay. Thank you very much.
Awesome job. Thank you.
Thank you.
Very much.
All right, next item this evening is public participation. Any member of the public is welcome to come forward. We do have a 3-minute time limit. If you are in the room, you're welcome to come forward to the microphone. We ask that you state your name and address for the record. And we do offer, if you're on Zoom, if you're in the participants window, you can click the raise hand feature and we will know that you would like to be recognized as well. Click over to the attendees window. I do not have any hands up at this point. Anyone in the room that would like to come forward? Okay, we'll continue on. Counselors, I didn't receive any email correspondence for the record. Did
There was
anyone
none.
else? Okay. Next item is remarks by counselors on public participation. Well, that's easy. We'll keep going. Consideration of old business. We have before us this evening to consider the education specifications for the John Wallace renovation project. Counselors, you'll remember at our last meeting, we were presented, and we've discussed this over a few meetings, but specifically last meeting, we were presented with the 4 motions that would be needed for us to take action on in order for the Board of Ed to have what they need to move forward with the application for state grant funding, as well as moving forward with the project in general. I know Mr. Giacomowitz is on as well. I saw him raise his hand. Counselors, I would open it for discussion at this point because this is something we've already discussed. So are there any other questions or comments that we need to consider before we consider taking action on these motions?
This is just the first step. We're not guaranteeing anything. We're just letting
Yeah,
them.
we're guaranteeing that we are in support of the project. We are not yet in receipt of specific numbers. We've got a general sense of the costs. But this would allow the real, for me, the driving factor in moving this forward now is that in order to apply for that state grant funding, the Board of Education needs our approval by June in order to make sure that application is prepared and in, and we can see what level of funding we would be eligible for moving forward. And then the referendum piece, this would allow us, when we get closer to election time, to consider putting together the referendum language and make sure that we're moving in that direction. But yes, someone asked me, is this a done deal then if we do this?
Yeah.
And nothing's ever a done deal, I guess. But I know in the past, we've done some of these motions for town hall before the final project happened. We had gone this route. And then at the last minute, it didn't move forward. So there's always speculation as to whether a project can move forward. But this is the first step for us to make sure we're moving in the right direction to get this done. Mr. Giacomowitz, do you have anything you want to add to that in terms of the process or procedure?
Sure. Good evening, everyone. Yes, the grant application motions that are in front of you right now are that collective first step of community action that will allow the grant application to get into the state system for consideration in December at the start of the next General Assembly session. That is where, if it does make it through referendum and passes and everyone's in support of it, that's the point in time where, the funding match by the state will be specifically confirmed in the authorization to proceed. If something falls apart before that date, it's no harm, no foul. There are no penalties or negatives associated with it. It's just the project doesn't advance. So no one should feel that they're committing themselves to a course of action that can't be backed off from or changed depending on how circumstances go. Certainly when it gets to pass the referendum and the presuming it passes, the steps that we have to take are not necessarily more stringent, but more time specific, where we have to turn around the referendum results by the end of November so that they know that Newington is in or they're out at that point, and they can develop their priority list accordingly. The standards right now, based on the published reimbursement rates for the projects, are 54.17% for John Wallace at this point. But there have been, the possibilities raised that there may be additional funding incentives made available on this job for the benefit of the community. So that's not all settled yet. I think that nothing will actually be moving ahead in discussions until the town basically puts their first step forward that says, okay, we're going to move forward with the grant application. And then it gives everybody a chance to rally around that particular potential initiative. So everything's gone really well so far. I was very pleased with the cost estimates that came in a few weeks ago, where we're right around our number with 26% contingency number involved there to handle cost escalations and any potential change orders. And just based on the nature of the district redoing the STEM wing back in 2015, we have a very detailed list of possibilities of what might go wrong or would be a change order. And I don't see a lot of risk for the town there that there will all of a sudden be $1 million in change orders appearing that ruin the project financing. I just don't see that being the case. We have good information and good history. So we are in a good place to deliver an excellent project for the town at a very reasonable cost.
Okay,
All right.
Thank you. Counselors, who would like to go ahead or is there any further discussion? I should ask. I don't see any hands up, but just to make sure. Okay.
I've got a little for you.
Oh, go ahead.
So just so everybody's aware of their timetable as well, we've already spoken to bond counsel about this coming forward, so they will be creating language. Council will need to adopt that bond language and set it for the referendum in November, no later than September 7th.
Okay.
So understand we have 3 months where a lot of this is going to come together.
Referendum by September 7th. Okay. All right. Did you have a question? Oh, okay. Anyone else? All right, then we'll go ahead and entertain these motions. Who would like to go ahead and read these in? Somebody? Bueller? Counselor Donahue.
Sure. Resolved, the Newington Town Council authorizes the Newington Board of Education and the Superintendent of Schools to file applications to the State of Connecticut Commissioner of Education for school construction grant funding for the renovation and security upgrades of project for wings 3, 4, and 6 at John Wallace Middle School.
Second.
Second.
Second by Counselor Camillo. Any further discussion, counselors? Hearing none, all those in favor, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion passes 8-0. Counselor Annis absent. Would you like to continue?
I'm rolling.
Thank you.
Resolved, in accordance with Article 7, Permanent Municipal Building
Oop,
Commission.
Article 12.
12. Article 7, I was thinking of something. Article 12, the Permanent Municipal Building Commission of the Newington Court of Ordinances. The Newington Town Council has established a permanent building commission responsible for major construction and maintenance projects within the town. The permanent building.
That should read the Permanent Municipal
Commission.
Building Commission.
Right, is hereby referred to in the following step. Following project for the renovation and security of project wings 3, 4, and 6 at John Wallace Middle School. Said committee is charged to work with the town manager and his or her designee, superintendent of schools, and any other appropriate town Board of Education staff engaged in the renovation and security upgrade for project for wings 3, 4, and 6 at John Wallace Middle School. Such improvement shall comply with the appropriate sections of the fire code, health code, building code, OSHA regulations of the Americans with Disability Act, and any other health or safety code regulations currently in force.
By Counselor Page. Any discussion on that, counselors? Hearing,
I just have one quick.
Counselor Menke?
Maybe this is me. Why isn't there wing 5? There's just 3, 4, and 6.
I can
Just
answer
for the
that.
public, it seems kind of we're missing 5.
Wing 5 is the Y-shaped wing facing directly at John Patterson. That was built in 1999, 2000, and it already has all the security and classroom attributes that we're looking to build into wings 3, 4, and 6.
Okay.
It used to be the little stub wing, which was the career tech and home economics room years and years ago. If anybody can remember that configuration from the school. And it was just extended and then moved into that Y configuration. So we've already addressed any of the needs 20 years ago in that particular wing.
I just want the public to think we missed a wing somehow.
No.
Thank you.
all right, any other questions, counselors? Hearing none, all those in favor, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion passes 8-0. Counselor Annis absent.
Resolved, the Newington Town Council hereby authorizes preparation of schematic drawings and outline specifications for the renovation and security upgrade project for wings 3, 4, and 6 at John Wallace Middle School.
Second.
Second by Counselor Camillo. Any discussion on this? Hearing none, all those in favor, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion passes 8-0. Counselor Annis absent.
Resolved, the Newington Town Council hereby states its intention to hold a referendum on November 7th, 2023 that presents the renovation and security upgrade project for wings 3, 4, and 6 at John Wallace Middle School to the community so that funding can be authorized for this work. Be it further resolved, Newington will have the referendum results certified and delivered to the OSCGR prior to December 1st, 2023, so that the renovation and security project upgrade for wings 3, 4, and 6 at John Wallace Middle School can be presented to the General Assembly for consideration for State of Connecticut School Construction Grant Funding.
Second.
Second by Counselor Menke. Any discussion, counselors? Hearing none, all those in favor, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion passes 8-0. Counselor Annis absent. Thank you. All right, Lou, there we go.
Great, thank you. We'll get started on it tomorrow morning. So. Get
Okay,
going.
great. Perfect. Thanks so much.
Thank you.
Okay.
Oh, you're still with
Yeah,
us for the
you're
next
still with us,
item. I
yeah.
forgot about that.
Don't
All
go
right.
too far.
Don't go too far.
Bid sheets, Lou.
Yeah, it's in my bag. So next item this evening is discussion of the town vehicle fleet review. Counselors, as you know, we at a recent meeting did ask for reviews of the town vehicle fleet in terms of our town side as well as emergency services, police and fire. So this evening, we asked for a review of the Board of Education's fleet as well. And I'll turn it over to you, Lou.
Okay. All right. There were several spreadsheets.
What would you like to start with?
I'm sorry?
Which one would you like to start with?
Start with the bus one. So that would be, everybody's seen that in the past. Again, you just get into the overall summary of our stuff. So this has been, the schedule you're looking at is for the bus replacement plan, which we, the town council and the board initiated a year and a half ago for trying to have a disciplined, consistent year-to-year funding mechanism for replacement buses. You know, as you can see, our fleet size is 75 of the big yellow tin cans. and student transport vans that we use. And yeah, there's about 6 different primary flavors of the vehicles. So we have the big 40-foot bus, and we have a wheelchair and air conditioned small bus, which typically can only handle 10 kids with 2 wheelchair tie downs. We have several mid-sized vehicles of 20 to 30 passengers for more difficult areas where we're going to cul-de-sacs and other routing arrangements where we can't fill a whole bus, and we have to have a more nimble vehicle to get in and out of the places we're going. This also addresses a lot of our special ed requirements in town that we deal with. We also have the basic van type of vehicle, which a driver doesn't necessarily have to have the full credentials to be able to drive a van, compared to being able to drive a 40-foot bus with air brakes. And then our athletic vehicles are essentially hand-me-downs out of the full bus fleet as things occur over the years. So we have 75 vehicles in our fleet right now. You can see from the scattergram the years that we acquired different vehicles and the buying capacity we have basically on a year-to-year basis of high 400,000s, around 500,000, to advance a plan that addresses current needs as well as trying to basically flatten the curve, where you can see in the 3rd year in the bus replacement column, there's $1,049,000 needed to be able to replace the vehicles that are just coming due that 1 year. We obviously will work around that, to be able to, manage that bubble in a more practical sense for everybody financially. And, as the years go by, this will stabilize and become a, something that can be managed really based on, inflation characteristics that are there. And if there's new mandates or regulations placed on bus that'll increase the costs or the operational needs, like moving to an electric vehicle. If that becomes something that is a requirement over the next few years, obviously those vehicles are much more expensive, and you need the charging infrastructure behind it to be able to manage a fleet of this size effectively. So this is the first part of it. Right now, this is addressed as part of the budget reconciliation for this year. So everything's all set moving forward at this point for the next budget year. So unless anybody has any questions, I'll ask for the slide to go over to the non-bus vehicles.
Can I ask just something? I don't know. Can you just explain this chart for me, what's going across and what's going down? I mean, the total number is always going to be 75, but like for.
Right, it's 75 right now. It could change based on.
But like for the year, retirement 2026, does that mean 9 full-size buses are going to be coming offline? Or what is that? I don't know how to read this chart. I'm sorry.
Okay, where that 9 is on the retirement year of 2026, those vehicles were purchased during 2014, 2015. So when you advance the clock ahead another 3 years, those will be at the 11-year mark of age, which is what our targeted plan is. That will not necessarily mean they come offline. If the buses are still in good shape, have proven to be, strong performers with, minimal repairs and major issues that are there, they will, stick around a few more years. The only thing we have to be able to do is make sure they pass inspection with the state staff every year. And the only thing I can say about that is they're a pretty risk adverse group. So they pretty much, once the buses get to 10, 11, 12 years old, they really start scrutinizing them, presuming there's problems, and would be much more aggressive in their evaluation of vehicles to make sure they're roadworthy. As long as we can maintain it in that fashion, it's fine. But we have to look at the practicality. If we need to invest $40,000 into repairing a bus that will only get 1 more year on the road, and then we have to invest another $40,000, it may be time to say goodbye to that vehicle. Just because.
So like looking at this chart then, assuming, I mean, if it's just based on, the data you have and, not according to the 11-year cycle, if everything was wonderful and we had the money, you would be anticipating 11 new vehicles that had to be purchased or replaced in, let's say, 2026?
Well,
Is
that's
that
the
the way to
history
interpret this?
that was there from 1450. That's not what we'd want to do. In essence, like the year before 2025, it's only showing 5 vehicles
Right.
coming off the line. We may, depending on the condition of the fleet, we may need to advance 1 or 2 and buy them that year to kind of flatten our curve. And then by going from 5 to 7 in 2025, and then we can go at 11 to 9 in 2026. One of the other considerations are the lead time to get a bus. I was just talking to our transportation director today, and we still have vehicles on order from a year ago. And right now they're looking at any new orders. We should not expect for 14 to 15 months from the date the order is placed. So we have some very long lead times to deal with as well, in trying to manage the transition of the fleet every year. So we don't get caught short by having to do excessive repairs because the new buses aren't here yet. So those are all managed month by month as we go.
Are you saying managing from attaining a new bus, there is, from what I understand, there's a time lag? Like for instance, from when you order one at the present
Yes.
time, how long, how many months, whatever generally does it take before one can actually get online? Or
Up until about 2 years ago, it was 6 months. Now it's 14 to 15 months.
okay, I just needed some kind of, so in ordering those, it might be another year before you'd actually get the vehicle that you claim is one that we should order or the town should order.
Correct.
Okay.
But again, looking at this schedule, I wasn't finished.
Go ahead, I'm sorry.
So again, looking at the schedule, in, let's say, the year 2027, you will be looking at, inspecting 4 full-size buses, 2, whatever, and may or may not need replacement, but that's the schedule where you'll be looking to see what the condition of those vehicles are.
Correct, right. This is all based on when we acquired the last round of vehicles. So with an 11-year cycle, the 2027 ones were acquired in the 15-16 year. Those are just the ones that are next up for consideration. Doesn't mean they'll go. But because we could have a lemon and a younger bus, then that has to go first. So it is fluid.
Counselor Page?
Thanks, Mayor. Yeah, just one question. The replacement costs and all these financials, does that include any potential value or money coming back to the board or the town for those retiring buses? I mean, is there a market out there like the Partridge Family or somebody who takes these things?
Yes.
What do we do with them?
Make campers out of them.
Right.
Yeah, there is an aftermarket for it. Surprisingly, a lot of it's offshore to South and Central America. There are DACO, if they win bids, have taken back vehicles and trade against that. I can say that they would get anywhere from $5,000 to $10,000 a vehicle. They're more for spare parts inventory for DACO's operations, as well as vehicles that they resell to other brokers in faraway lands. And just for the interest of the group, about a year ago, one of my work associates working in another school district sent me a photograph of a school bus that was actually somewhere in either Panama or Colombia, and you could see the faded, painted out Newington School District 860-666-2441 phone number on it. So they live on for quite some time after we're done with them here.
All right, thank you.
Lou, one more quick question.
Sure.
Just for example, if you're looking at the retirement year 2024, it says 3 athletic buses, but in theory, I think what you were saying earlier is that you might slide, if there's 3 full-size buses coming offline, would you consider moving those into that athletic purpose?
Oh,
and then
absolutely.
only replacing 7?
Correct. Right. That's
Okay.
a definite possibility. So,
Okay.
You know,
Or maybe not those 3, but
some of
some
the
from
athletic buses if we do have them repainted to be the color white without the SOS lights and things like that, we'll have a few $1,000s of refurbishing costs to get them into that condition. But that would be the only thing we need to do for it.
And we do have some buses that are not on the road daily, but they're used for substitute buses, so to speak.
Oh, yes, absolutely.
So would you typically move those kind of not in the main fleet buses into athletic first and then move the 3 that you're taking offline into the sub rotation, so to speak?
Yes, all of it does cascade down based on where the needs
Okay.
are. We
Similar
have,
to what we do
I
on our
believe,
side, yeah.
30 or 31 full-size buses that are on the everyday run. So there's like 7 spares. But with the rotation of, buses, they have to be out of service for routine maintenance. Somebody has a breakdown. Some are doing field trips. We're not a lot of extras again for the daily operations that are there.
Okay, thank you.
Mhm.
Are we good with this page?
Mhm.
Okay, I think we're good for you to move on. Thanks, Luke.
Okay. Very good.
Yeah.
Okay, so this illustration has 2 pages of information. One is sorted by our fleet ID number for the Board of Ed, so you can see, starts with number 100, goes to number 600. Those are just the arbitrary numbers we assign to that vehicle for building our fleet list. And then the second one is by date of acquisition. So you can see the oldest vehicle in our fleet was acquired in 2002 compared to 2022. So there's 30 school bus, school van vehicles that we have in our fleet. And if this is the most recent version, do you have a page 3 on this one? Yes, okay. So this is the breakout of what purposes those vehicles are used for. So 12 of the vehicles are for security, residency investigations that are being done. 9 of them are security cars that go along with the security officers that go around the district. We have 1 vehicle for the security director and 2 vehicles that are used for various degrees of reconnaissance and residency investigations. We have 3 smaller vehicles and that are used for information technology. We run a hub and spoke operation for our IT, where we have our main shop at Ruth Chafee, and we have over 5,000 devices between the student Chromebooks and staff devices that have to be maintained. And we have several 2 full-time help desk personnel, and we have anywhere from 2 to 4 interns from our internship program that fill out all of the daily calls, helping teachers and staff members keep everything online and with degree of time sensitivity, and then running a Chromebook repair shop and returns, where we have a lot of activity that goes through there on a weekly basis to maintain the vitality of the fleet. We have 1 larger box truck, which is a refrigerated unit specifically for the school lunch program, for them being able to take materials at temperature, around the school district. We supply to them high school and John Wallace, and then distribute from those 2 locations. We have 6 maintenance vehicles. We have 5 for the 5 maintainers who work for the district. Those are uniquely outfit for the type of work they do, and the attributes they have. We have an HVAC person, a electrician. We have a general tradesman who also specializes our district locksmith, and 2 general tradesmen for all types of issues. And then we also have a little tag-along trailer, which is a heavy-duty unit, so it can move around our lift trucks when we're doing different things, working at the rafters and the gymnasiums of the different schools, changing lights, number of that type of activity. We have our central supply operation, which is housed at John Wallace in the basement. And again, that's a hub and spoke operation where our central supply supervisor does, routine deliveries of all basic teacher materials that are used in the classrooms. And that's could be delivered as frequently as daily if necessary, depending on what's going on. We have 2 vehicles that are assigned at the bus garage. Our maintenance, we have 2 maintainers in the buildings that go take care of our entire fleet, so we can limit our reliance on DACO. One of those vehicles is basically the rolling emergency vehicle, like a AAA coming to get your car going. But you have stalled out, your battery won't work, you got a flat tire. They go out and do all those things for us. And then they have that little Gator type truck, which runs around the yard where they can do their fuel checks and everything. And, instead of having to drive the vehicle into the shop bay, they take the little Gator to go to the vehicle. We have one small size vehicle that does the mail service for us every day. And then we have 3 box trucks of various vintages, all of them having lift gates for, being able to address heavy loads and, things that are bulky and awkward to carry and move. And we have some mutual assistance with the town operations. I know that those box trucks are borrowed frequently for the human services food operation. The maintenance department will borrow the lift truck and the tag along if they need to for being able to do some of the higher work that we would do. We have the police department has borrowed it for when they're going out and acquiring ammunition from their sources. I'm trying to think, there are a couple more things, but I know it's on the prior page. There's a little note that says what things we do in collaboration with the town. So I can't see that from here at the moment. No. Okay. And then when you just, and then we had 1 van that's a spare, and that really is the backup for all 5 maintenance guys. So when one of their vehicles is off the road for some reason, that vehicle is the first one off the bench to for one of the maintenance guys to use. So that is the fleet. So in this one, by vehicle ID number, for the 30 vehicles that are here, it has all the pertinent information about what the vehicle does, what it is, where we got it from, and the price of acquisition. I know a number of our vehicles that we use for security operations come through the police department when they retire a cruiser or other vehicle that we are in line to be able to get that. We have bought a couple over the years from Bloomfield as well to fill that need. The only real new vehicles we buy are the ones where we outfit the vehicle for our maintenance staff. Those are the higher value ones. Many of the other box trucks and older vans are things we go out and look around in the secondary market. So of the 30 vehicles that we have right now, we've done an assessment of the condition of all 30. One of them is getting close to the end of the line. That's the 2002 box truck, where we got body rod issues on it. And the recommendation would be whenever we're ready to divest ourselves of that and replace it with a new one, or we can get a quality vehicle in the secondary market that can replicate that. That's what we would do. And then the other 3 are all security vehicles that are the cars that our security officers are using. And those would be when vehicles come off the line at the police department, that'll be our cue to consider replacing one of ours and retiring it and using the vehicle that came out of police operations going forward. And all the others are in some state, in a pretty decent condition. So we're not at any risk of, needing need to replace 6 or 8 vehicles. We have a, well-managed and well-cared for fleet at this point. And it's basically right sized for our operational needs.
Okay.
Any questions?
Lou, do you have any that are take-home vehicles, or are they all parked in lots at night and left for use during the school day?
The security officer will take it home at night because many times leaving his house, he's going on residency investigations at 6 in the morning. So he wouldn't come here first at all, depending on where he's going for doing that work.
So is that your security director, you think, you're
Yes,
saying?
that's security,
Okay.
correct.
Got it.
Uh, In
Does
the
it take
winter
it-
time, the HVAC tech and maintainers may be put on notice that we want them to take it home for the four-wheel drive capability of some of those vehicles. So if they have to get in on bad weather days, we may instruct them to take it home. I know the HVAC tech for overnight calls in winter season will be instructed to bring his vehicle home on basically a nightly basis from Thanksgiving through end of February, just so he's ready to deal with a overnight emergency if it occurs.
Okay.
But there are no regularly, I mean, it's occasionally, it's not full-time.
Yeah, nothing, nobody takes.
On a
home.
regular basis, whether they're in the driveway 7 days a week.
Correct.
Thank you.
Okay. Any other questions, counselors? Sorry, I'm in a different screen. Go ahead, Deputy Mayor Bedrejko.
Yeah, Lou, actually, you mentioned it, you said you have several vehicles from Bloomfield, and I'm just wondering, do you have a special arrangement with them, or do they have a superior service department? I mean, it does seem to be, I mean,
Yeah,
that's the only.
that was 7-8 years ago. I know that was when we were really starting out with more of an emphasis on security vehicles. I think that was just where we could get the first group of vehicles. I know our former superintendent had business acquaintances who worked in Bloomfield and were able to direct us to finding a couple of vehicles at that point. So these were really over like a 2-year span is the only time we bought anything from them back in the mid 2010s. And we'll be, we haven't done business with them in 6-7 years, maybe longer.
Thank you.
All right. All right. I don't see any other questions. Thank you, Lou.
Thanks.
Very good. Okay, great. You have a great evening and thank you for passing the motions. Okay.
All right, you too. Thank you.
Have a good evening. Okay, bye.
Good night.
Night.
All right, next item, this session of the disposition of town-owned land, and I'm going to let you take a lead on this, James.
So this was an interesting one. So we've discussed this a few times over the past couple of years. And in a research project on some leases that we were looking for on current town buildings, I ran across a 1989 policy that this council had passed. Well, not this council, but we would have been around a long time.
I was still a babe.
But the council in general had passed outlining a very specific process to acquire land that's not technically a buildable lot without some other piece. And getting it back on the tax rolls, always a plus. It does put a lot of onus on the individual who wants to purchase it. They do have to get the surveying done. They do have to get the appraisal done and supply that to the town. We're not taking on that weight of it. So there is always the possibility that they put out this money and it goes nowhere because that parcel may not pass the requirements of our current zoning, even with the acquisition. So individuals should understand that going into it. But overall, I think it's a really good policy. I have supplied it to the town attorney. He hasn't responded back on it yet. I know he's been busy with a few other things. I sent him a couple other contracts we had, one being on our license plate reader program to get those up on their polls. But once he's responded back, if there are any specific changes, we could make those as necessary. You can see on the last page of it, there is an appraiser sheet as well for what they need to do. The whole purpose of their review of that parcel, because it isn't a standard parcel. No matter what we look at, whether it's a road stub or a leftover piece of a subdivision, these aren't pieces that you can normally just cobble together and have a lot to be able to build something on. You've got to do that extra work to get that to work for you. And then, of course, it doesn't preclude the rest of the process, which is this council referring it to the TPZ, receiving the report back that they are in favor of that one, or if they're putting conditions onto that. Bless you. So there is a lot more work that goes into it. Really no different than a lot of the work we've done on selling some fully buildable lots, such as we're working on National Welding currently, and the parcel that we sold over on Fen Road as well. but I'll take any questions anybody may have.
Okay.
It was interesting to run across this though.
So at this point, this is already an adopted policy.
Correct.
So we would be following this now that we're aware of it. Unless this council sees fit to make any changes or the town attorney recommends any changes, this would just stay as is.
Correct.
Right.
Okay. Any other questions, councilors?
Councilor Page.
I would just say,
Counselor Page.
this seems to address several of the questions. I know like Councilor Mankey had brought up the point, I believe, about adjacent property owners being aware and having an opportunity. How do we handle that? And other comments and questions of the council. So it seems like it does address a lot of those concerns.
It was interesting to look back. I actually pulled the original memorandum. This was from Frank Conley, so we know this goes back quite a ways. So they had gone through a couple of proposed policies on this, made a couple of changes. Ironically, this policy had to do with the Stam Road stub that we had talked about a few years back as well. So it was interesting that it sort of tied into something that came up in current day. But they made a couple of changes. Actually, it was funny. There was a change by the mayor. There was a change by a councilor. So it was a little back and forth, but in the end, they came up with what I consider to be a really good policy for the town overall.
Great.
My only other question would be, and again, not for tonight, but should we be concerned, and at the risk of overreacting here, but should we be concerned that arguably an important policy like this we weren't aware of? Are there other policies that are kept somewhere in archives that we should be, or how many unknowns are there? Yeah,
For
and
so long.
I'm not pointing fingers, I'm just
Yeah.
saying, and thank you for finding this. It's like, how does this policy get hidden in the archives for 30 years? Like,
Believe it or not, it's not a hard thing to do. Up until about 1994, we were creating indexes specifically of the town council minutes. That's a process that's sort of gone away from since OCRs become more prevalent throughout our society. It's something that I'm trying to fix in the clerk's office. We do have a bridge, which ironically, this one was in. Of minutes that aren't accessible. Normally, I'd be able to find this in an instant. I would have put in sale of town-owned land, I would have found this.
in a browser.
Unfortunately, from about 1976 to 2006, I haven't bridged that minute gap yet. So it just happened to be lucky that I was looking through for some information on how we leased out, ironically, the fire department museum back to the organization, and ran across this in that same time period. It wasn't even relative to that. It actually had to do with land that was being sold to the funeral home right near CVS. We had some parcels so they could create a drive pass through. So sometimes you just run across things in the strangest of ways.
Okay, thank you.
It's a good policy.
Yeah.
Just reading through it, yes, there are several steps that an individual or an applicant will need to go through, but it all seems pretty straightforward
Yes.
and pretty reasonable to me. I just had a couple of little tweaks. I'll share them with you.
Yep.
One question, number 6.
Yes.
At the end of that last sentence, shall hold at least one work session. We don't do work sessions. Should that be executive session?
Correct. We actually removed that from our rules, actually 2 revisions back, I believe, at this point, and we just removed it from our charter provisions as well as the latest update.
So should we choose to update the policy, that would be one of the changes we would need to
Yeah.
make.
But no, and thanks for finding this, sharing
The
it.
hidden gem.
All right.
So if the council, other than any comments back from the town attorney are in agreement, I will correspond with the attorney's office that's interested in the Timothy property. I've already supplied this to her. She found it to be very interesting, but she was waiting to find out what the status was from the council's acceptance of it. So if the consensus is it's a good policy and we can move forward in that process, I'll let them know.
Yeah, you got all the nods.
All right. I will let them know in the morning.
Okay, thank you. Next item this evening is the town manager's search update. We do have 2 resolutions for consideration this evening, but before moving on to those, I'll just ask Councilor Mankey to give a quick update.
Yeah, just can report that the town council did spend half a day interviewing 3 candidates in person. And we're moving ahead with the process. And the resolutions, I guess, speak for themselves.
Okay. Who would like to do the first resolution? Would you like to?
I
Councilor Maples?
would be happy to.
Thank you.
Resolved, the Newington Town Council hereby authorizes Randy Frank Consulting LLC to enter into negotiations for a prospective town manager candidate regarding a contract for employment. The town council shall review and approve the proposed employment contract prior to appointment.
Second.
Second by Councilor Rada. I will add that, of course, before any contract is approved, our town attorney would review it as well. Just to make sure everybody knows that. It doesn't need to be part of the resolution because this is really about allowing the consulting firm to help with the negotiation piece. So we have a motion and a second. Any council comment or question? Hearing none, all those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion passes 8-0. Councilor Annis absent. And then because the process of getting someone on board is likely to extend beyond June 1st, which is when James' current appointment ends, we need to reappoint him to stay as the acting town manager until such time that the new town manager, permanent town manager, I should say, is approved with no less than 6 affirmative votes. And at that point, James would go back to being our town clerk. So we do have that motion in front of us. Who would like to go ahead? Deputy Mayor Badrejko?
Resolved, the Newington Town Council establishes the following with regard to its appointment of James Kropinski as acting town manager. While serving as acting town manager, Mr. Kropinski shall receive a salary of $5,769.23 biweekly as of June 2nd, 2023. All of Mr. Kropinski's existing benefits will continue, modified as necessary to reflect the change in salary from his position as town clerk. 2, while serving as acting town manager, Mr. Kropinski shall have the unrestricted use of a town vehicle. The town shall be responsible for all costs relating to the operation and maintenance of said vehicle. 3, Mr. Kropinski shall have the right to return to his position of town clerk at the conclusion of his term as acting town manager or upon removal as acting town manager, except in the case of a for-cause removal. 4, the town shall furnish and provide Mr. Kropinski with insurance protection, including comprehensive general liability and errors and omissions coverage applicable to all acts or omissions arising out of his employment as acting town manager. 5, the council reserves the right to remove the acting town manager at any time for cause with 6 affirmative votes. 6, this appointment shall terminate upon the adoption of a resolution to appoint the permanent town manager with no less than 6 affirmative votes as outlined in section 501 of the Newington Town Charter.
Second.
Seconded by Councilor Nagel. Any discussion, councilors?
I have one question.
Yes.
And this is worst case scenario that there is no town manager within 90 days. I'm just suggesting or thinking that for number 6, this appointment shall terminate upon 90 days or after 90 days. I don't know how we want to state it. Or upon the adoption of a resolution to appoint a permanent town manager, which means it gives us that same period that we had in the last
I thought of
resolution.
that too, but I think my understanding of it is that because the charter dictates that it can only be a 90-day appointment, it's understood, but I'm gonna look to you to.
That is correct. So the charter only allows for a 90-day appointment. So no matter what happens,
There can't be a.
there can't be a longer.
Okay.
So
all right.
that's why you'll notice
We would have
it's
to take
not,
action to do it.
right,
yeah.
so you'll
Well, this
notice.
is what we're doing
Correct.
here. Well,
Because the
that's-
90 days is up.
Right.
Right, so what I'm saying is that this is a new resolution for an additional 90, for a new 90-day period. So that's why I was thinking we add.
Did we have that in the
90
original
days.
language?
The number 6, no.
No. I
Everything
mean,
else is the same as what we've done in the last 2 resolutions.
Okay.
Yeah. And because the charter calls it as a 90-day appointment only, that's why we don't do it as a renewal as we did in 2016. It's actually supposed to be a new appointment each time.
Right, and that's why I was thinking include that specific time period in here, just to clarify in case there were any questions that arose.
I mean, I'm not opposed to it. It's
it.
just, it's, in the past, it was just understood, but
Charter.
yeah. Did previous motions to appoint you, because we've
I mean,
done 2 already.
hopefully we won't need to do this. at the-
Correct. Did we have the 90-day language in the first two motions? If we did,
I
we
don't
should still
remember.
be
I don't
consistent.
recall.
Let's see, February, give me a second. Oh, I don't have any of those with me. Have with me, so I can't.
Is anyone opposed to adding that 90 days? It is part of the charter. It's an automatic, but it's not going to hurt to have it in the
No,
resolution.
it doesn't hurt. I just added in.
So who would like to amend their motion?
I did it. You want me to read the whole thing again?
No, you can
No.
just amend number 6 to include.
Resolve, item number 6, this appointment shall terminate at 90 days or upon the adoption of the resolution to appoint the permanent town manager with no less than 6 affirmative votes as outlined in section 501 of the Newington Town Charter.
And I'll second it. That's
You'll
amended.
amend your second, okay?
And just in
That's
case
good.
there is ever any question of what we've done.
Okay, so we have a motion, we have an amended second, an amended motion, and amended second. Any other discussion? All those in favor, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion passes 8-0. Counselor Annis absent. We'll continue on to resignations and appointments. Today we have an appointment for the Economic Development Commission. Counselor Mankey?
Resolved, Newington Town Council hereby makes the following appointments. Marissa Lenz, member,
Lindsay?
Hmm?
No, go ahead.
25 Longview Drive, Party R, term 5/23/23 to 11/30/2025. Vacancy resignation of M. Payne.
Is there a second?
Second.
Second by Counselor Donahue. Any discussion? Hearing none. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion passes 8-0. Counselor Annis absent. Next item is refunds, approval of the May 23rd, 2023. Deputy Mayor Boudreau.
Resolved that property tax refunds in the amount of $1,480.49 are hereby approved in the individual amounts and for those named on the request for refund of an overpayment of taxes certified by the revenue collector, a list of which is attached to this resolution.
Second.
Second by Counselor Rada. Any discussion? Hearing none. All those in favor signify by saying aye. Aye. Any opposed? Motion passes 8-0. Counselor Annis absent. Next item this evening is approval of the minutes. I would like to entertain a motion to approve the minutes of May 9th, 2023 regular meeting.
Second.
Moved by Counselor Nagel, seconded by Counselor Minky. Any discussion or corrections?
No?
You know I look at you because you're the guy that always does that. All right. Any discussion? Hearing none. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion passes 8-0. Counselor Annis absent. And we are on to new business. This evening we have for our first new business item, the ARPA fund allocations. And Ms. Murphy is with us, so I'll turn it over to you.
Hi, so similar to what we discussed a couple minutes ago with the turf field, these are some projects and items that we took off of our CIP and our operational budgets and that we were looking to use for the ARPA funds for. There was the fit test machine for the fire department for $14,000, pool paint for Parks and Rec for $25,000, the Eagle Park Playground renovation for $375,000, 2 town hall canopies for $200,000 total, the town building roof replacement repairs for $300,000, and police admin vehicle, the Ford Explorer for $71,500, and the last is the highway and parks garage. Starting work on that for $459,000. The total of all these was $1,444,500. And I believe you also got the summary of what we spent so far, pledged so far for ARPA funds. That shows after these funds being promised to these projects, it will leave you $2,105,808.
Okay. I'll open up for council comment or discussion, and first is Counselor Mankey.
Yeah, Jen, I just had a question on Parks and Recreation pool paint for 25,000. I think it was our intent that that would be done if it was necessary. So it's been determined we need to paint the pools this year.
As of right now, yes.
I
Okay.
can double check that with Bill, but when I asked him previously and told him we were doing this, he didn't say it wasn't needed, but I can run that by him again.
My question just generally is if we put it in here and say for the pool paint, it doesn't get used, it then reverts back, or we have to unencumber it?
I won't encumber anything unless it's needed. So the funds will still be there if
Okay.
they're not used.
So if not used, they stay, okay, I got you.
They
Okay,
stay
thank you.
right there. They stay right there in the grant. Correct.
Thank you.
I did speak with Bill. He actually indicated they were trying to get the pool dried out at Churchill, I believe, because that one doesn't have a floor drain, so they have to pump that. And of course, with the rain again this
Oh,
weekend.
yeah, it
So
didn't get dried out.
they are
I'm
working on
guessing.
that one, I know, actively.
Okay.
Yeah.
Deputy Mayor Badrejko?
Okay, I have a question on. I thought. The very last one where it says Highway and Parks Garage. And I thought when we were talking about it, it was a one building, Highway and Parks Garage. Now I'm looking at this and it looks like we're investing two buildings, a building on Milk Lane and then an additional building on Willard Avenue. I thought the appropriation was for a garage.
Nope. The appropriation is to start design and review plans for both buildings. It's not for one. They're not combining them in one location. Right now, preliminary that they looked at it, they're keeping them in their current locations, but trying to do some design work and get some cost in place so we can get a good idea what it will cost to renovate, repair and replace.
Both of them under the same.
Yes,
like
we
same
put them
time
under
frame or
one.
whatever?
Yeah, we put them both together to do design work at the same time.
Okay, but doesn't necessarily mean construction will be at the same time.
Nope, does not mean. Nope, this is just to give us some preliminary numbers so that when we get to CIP next year, we can really get a good feel of what it's going to cost and how much work it's going to take for both properties.
Okay, thank you.
That funding as well ties into the new permanent municipal building committee, getting that referred to them, and our on-call architects as well to have that design work completed.
Counselor Page?
Thanks, Mayor. And thank you, Janet, for putting all this together. I appreciate it. Can you just explain the funds received year to date, 8.8 million? Is that within the last or the current fiscal year?
Nope, that's over a 2-year time span.
Over 2 years, okay. So then the year-to-date spending is also as well as year-to-date encumbered over that
That's
same
in
2 years.
total. Yep,
Right.
that's in
And so
total.
just, and I should know the answer to this, but I'm going to clarify it. So all of the decisions to date relative to the small business assistance grant, I know we've talked about that, and other items, did every one of these go through the council?
When we first started, it was kind of handled in town manager's comments when we were doing them. Different things you kind of do. And then we put in place the formal process where it has to go to you guys to get, especially the big projects, to get approved. And we've done resolutions. So like the license plate readers, the drainage projects, James, the project you did in town clerk's office, the Munis project, those, all of those guys got a formal resolutions in place on those.
Right, and I'm not commenting yay or nay on anything. I'm just clarifying because I do remember several of them. I don't remember all of them. And I just wanted to clarify. So I appreciate that. And so.
And as I said, some of them were just handled, the smaller ones were handled during the town manager's comments. Like I know the former town manager mentions about the concert series and trying to bring businesses back there and stuff like that.
Actually, and I remember that. I'm sorry. I remember that being brought up again for our consideration at one of the budget cycles, and we agreed. We thought it made sense.
Yeah, we put it in
to keep this our center going and so forth. So okay. And again, thank you very much because I know we had some residents also asking. Just can we get an update? We've had folks asking us, so this is very helpful to have this posted.
Any other questions, councilors? We'll be moving this to our next agenda for action. Okay. Thank you.
Thanks. Have a good night.
You too.
Thanks, Janet.
Good night.
Next item this evening is discussion on the easement for egress ramp at 1042 Main Street. Mr. Popinski?
More land. So we received a request from the owner of 1044 Main Street. He's looking to subdivide his building into 2 units. Actually, you've got maps presented to you, but I've got the current map on the screen. Visible on our screen in here. There we go. So you'll see the main structure to the left is along Main Street. The current structure for Flowers Incorporated or Flowers Etc. Incorporated runs the entire length. They're looking to split that into 2 separate units. And then the rear unit, they are looking to do a small patio and egress walkway out into the sidewalk area adjacent to the center of Constitution Square. This will give you a little bit better of a blow up on that. So coming outside of the back of that building, there'd be a small patio area, small step down, as well as an ADA compliance ramp. That ramp, as you can see from the line on the screen, actually overlaps the town property line and the building property line. So in order for them to be able to install that ramp without coming directly straight out of the building and into the existing vegetation that's there, they're looking to try and keep that in place. They're requesting an easement. It's not going to affect anything for walking for us in any general way. We don't actually have a sidewalk that connects to the north side of that. It's just a patio hard space at the moment. You'll notice along the plantings to the bottom of it, there is actually where it says the remainder of the word floor plan there. Just along that lower border is actually a quarter in between 2 buildings. So that is an access point, but it's not a sidewalk point that comes directly from East Cedar Street down into the parking lot that way. So we wouldn't have any main impact to any pedestrian traffic, other than, of course, to the new business.
Okay.
I know there's a lot to that.
Any questions, comments, councilors? Counselor Mankey?
I have a question. With this easement, it looks like half of the sidewalk is on our land and half is on the owner's land. Who's responsible for maintaining that sidewalk or that ramp, both in the winter?
The ramp would be theirs. Yeah, the ramp would be theirs. We, as part of our Parks and Grounds, we actually handle the cleaning of the sidewalk areas. I'm sure with the way that it is laid out, we can have something in the easement agreement to require them to ensure that it's ice and safe free.
Okay.
Has he indicated who the new business, what the new business would be, or who the renter would be for the
Don't believe he
front
did.
space? I looked in the letter and there's nothing in there. I mean, he's stating that he's moving his business to the rear section.
Yeah, he didn't indicate what the new business would be at the front. As you can see from the smaller map, if you can read it. It was a 1,272 square foot front tenant space, and he's reducing himself to 710 square feet in the rear. So quite a reduction there, but I'm sure he's trying to make that up in rent.
Okay, Counselor Page?
I'm sorry.
Go ahead, please.
And I don't think he's really determined that until he knows that he can acquire that easement and then go before TPZ, because he still has to go through that process, but he sort of has to get our buy-in to that, otherwise he can't apply.
Yeah, just 2 points. One is just to clarify, again, this ramp would be on an existing sidewalk, well away from cars and travel.
Correct. Actually, where you see the double lines, that is actually the granite curbing adjacent to the hard space for the parking lot.
Okay, great. And then the only other comment, as we have several other businesses facing the parking lot, I think it's a wonderful idea to encourage that, as long as obviously it's safe and all these other considerations have been taken into, and because I think that only adds more vitality to the backside of our wonderful center.
I know I just ate at Rooster on their patio this afternoon, and it was a beautiful way to just sit there and relax.
It's great. So I think this is great. Thanks.
Okay. So hearing no other council questions, we'll move this to our next agenda.
We'll give them ability to move forward with it. We'll have the town attorney drop the easement language, and then we'll present that
May or
for
may not
your
be on-
acceptance and authorization to execute. Correct.
Okay.
Yep. Just as long as we can let them know that they're good to move forward with the council's blessing.
All right, we will continue on. Next item this evening is written oral communications from the town manager.
I only have a couple this evening. So I'll give you the one happy note. Our town engineer started on Monday. He jumped right in. He was at our economic development
And he
meeting
came
this
back
morning.
today.
And he came back today. Yep. Just to clarify that. Yep, he's jumped right in, getting himself familiar with the town and the employees, had a little tour with us. So I think he'll do quite well. We actually also had our bond meeting this morning, opened bids. We received out of 11 that were on board for bidding, we received 8 bids. That bid closed out at a 3.663806, and boy, they explained why it has to go out that far now. Literally, we were between 36638 and 36668.
What is that referring to? Just to clarify.
That's the rate that they're putting the bond out at.
I thought it
So that was the
high.
high bidder on that one, and we did end up receiving $475,000 premium as we did last time. So
Good.
we've got a few years ahead on that one to be able to pay that down. So that's nice.
Great.
See, I think that's all I've got for tonight.
Okay. Any questions, counselors? Hearing none, we'll continue on. Next item is council liaison committee reports.
Oh, I'm sorry. I did miss one thing.
Oh, go ahead.
I go and put these things here and I forget all about them. There were 2 other pieces. We'll go back to that. First one is we received our latest update from our grant writer. We just received as part of our latest update from them as of April 31st, $297,000 plus change in awarded grants overall. That does include some previous ones for the extraction equipment from Firehouse Subs, all of that. So still moving along. We did have a few that were rejected. One of them was the Recreation Trails Planning Grant. We actually just had that one reapproved. So that'll be updating on this list as well. So that was a good one to hear. We got $75,000 on the planning one for that. Secondly, on, let's see, when was this? Was it last Wednesday? Myself, the town planner, I met with the governor at Cedar Point regarding affordable housing in Connecticut. It was a really great event. Got to sort of talk with DECD, CHFA, the governor, just talking about the plans that they see throughout the state relative to some language that was going through the legislature at that time. So overall, a good event. Good for the town, a little bit of good advertising as well. We've received a lot of interest in being able to get on that waiting list for Cedar Point and that affordable housing.
Great.
So it's a good thing.
I know I had forwarded you a request the other day.
Yep.
One of the high school social workers had reached out and said they have a family that wanted to know how to get in touch with the developer or whoever will be renting. And so James was kind enough to find out that social services or
They're
human
keeping a list.
services is keeping a list of those folks that would like to get in touch and find out more information. So we were able to make that connection. So it's good news.
Yep, excellent for the town and as we keep moving forward.
Great. All right, moving on to council liaison committee reports. Hearing none, we will continue on to public participation. Any member of the public is welcome to come forward, if in person, to the microphone at the front here. State your name and address for the record. If you are participating by Zoom and would like to be recognized, please raise your hand in the participants window so that we know you'd like to be recognized. And we do have a 3-minute time limit that we would ask you to adhere to. Let me just double check our attendees window. NCTV control room is it. John, you good?
They never have any questions.
Anyone in the room that would like to come forward? All right, we will continue on to remarks by counselors. No, whoop, I do have a hand up. Deputy Mayor Badrejko.
Just want to say that several of us attended a wonderful event on Saturday, 2 events actually, regarding the dedication of a portion of Maple Hill Avenue for the retired firefighters in town. And then that evening, there was a celebration dinner gala in recognition of the 70th anniversary of the Retired Firefighters Association. And several of the counselors were there.
Both great events, I agree. Counselor Mankey?
I regret I missed both of those events as I had a family wedding And it was raining like hell, so.
Just as we all got outside around the sign. yeah.
Same with the wedding, as we got from the bus to the house, it was to the venue, it rained. But I would just point out that this is Memorial Day weekend coming up, and the big parade in town. I think one of the gems in our town is our Memorial Day parade. I think it's one of those things where half the town watches the parade, and the other half marches in the parade. I think it's something that we should make an effort to attend, just to remember those 30 people from Newington who gave their life, so we could have a picnic on Monday.
Yeah, just to
And then
emphasize that.
the ceremony is afterwards, I think, which is one of the things I like about the ceremony is that at least one day a year, those people who gave their life for our country, their name is read out aloud, and we have a minute to ponder what the enormity of that sacrifice is, because it's a name, but hearing the name and hearing a few details about it, I think it brings it home. So if you can make the parade, that's great. If you want to stick around for the ceremony, it's up at the top of the hill between the library and the town hall. And I think that's the most important part of the day, is remembering those people who gave up the sacrifice so that we could have the country as we know it.
Agreed. Counselor Page?
Thanks, Mayor. I just want to thank the library for putting on a wonderful 5K event, as they do every year at their fundraiser, and one of them. And we had a lot of fun. I walked it, so I'm not going to comment on my time, but a lot of people were running it quickly. And there were kids out there and a lot of festivities afterwards. And it was a great day. So I hope everybody can be there next year.
Counselor Rada?
Just if we can clarify where we're meeting to line up and what time we need to be
Just
ready for the
Yeah,
parade.
I can
Go ahead.
I can speak as I serve on the parade committee. So
Okay.
we just line in front of the church where the driveway kind of meets and the
First
Robbins
Lutheran,
comes. Yeah,
where
right-
we last,
right
was
up there,
last
yeah,
year,
right.
okay.
We lead off the parade, so right in that area, we'll all be congregated now, and they'll come get us in line, because we are politicians. We need to know where to go stand, because it shows.
Like herding cats.
Like herding cats, or nailing jello to a tree.
Okay.
And what time?
The
Should we
parade
be
steps
there?
off at 10:30, so I would say you should be there
Usually
probably
meet
by
around 10.
Yeah.
Counselor Nagel?
It's really great that this town during this season has so many events happening. Unfortunately, some happen all on the same day, but aside from the ones that were already mentioned, that I was able to attend most of them, the German club, the Sagerbund, had their Mayfest. So went from one event in the morning for the sign for the veteran firefighters to there, and then to the banquet at night. So it was a full day. The Historic Society had at their annual meeting recently a presentation of the Radio League, going through the history of the Radio League and how important it is to the town. It was nice to have that reminder. And once again, lots is going on. You just have to look for it, and yes, get it on that town website. Sometimes one group doesn't talk to the other in terms of timing. Sometimes it doesn't matter. And sometimes I would imagine, James, if something isn't received by you, it doesn't go on the town website. Is that one of the flaws, just as a comment?
One of the flaws, and it goes to truthful for any of the departments as well. So if they don't have a notification of it, like I wasn't sure what time anything was leading off on Saturday, so I'm glad that was mentioned. And I will make sure that gets added on.
Okay, it's good to have so many things going on in town, so many people taking advantage of them and wanting to know more about them, given the survey we had earlier.
Right.
Thank you.
Counselor Rada, did you have another?
I just wanted to add to Counselor Budraco's comments about the Veteran Firefighters Association. And after the dedication of the roadway, several of us went back to Company 2, and we were able to get a firsthand glimpse of new ladder truck. And that was a lot of fun. It was very educational. We got to climb up inside, and I felt like a little kid again. It was great. So we got, first, it's not online quite yet, but it sounds like it will be very soon. They're putting the final inspections and touches on it.
And I do a ton of training hours on the new equipment. They were telling me how many hours every member of the fire department has to have in order to make sure that it's good to go. So it's pretty intense what they have to
That new
do.
truck will be in the parade.
Oh,
Yes.
Yeah, but they have another, I think, an outside certified driver.
Nice.
Oh, that's good. Yeah, they can show it off to the rest of the town.
And then just one more quick one, I just wanted to mention and thank the Masons Sequin Level Lodge in town. On Sunday, they had an event from 9 to 1, it was a brunch for bears, that I attended. First of all, they put out a great breakfast, because they do it once a month anyway, but they were collecting donations and or bears. And the purpose for it was to donate to our Newington first responders, so that they can have the availability of the stuffed animals to provide children in an emergency situation with a soft friend that might make them more comfortable. And I was flashing back to when my daughter, who's now 24, broke her arm at Mill Pond Playground, actually. And we had a response from emergency responders, and she did get a little stuffed animal that made her feel a whole lot more comfortable. So I'm glad to hear they're still working on doing that. It's really a nice effort. So, anything else, counselors? If not, we are gonna move into executive session. We do have a motion in the packet, but there's a revised one on the screen. We had omitted in error our town attorney, so we want to make sure and correct that. So Councilor Menke, would you please?
Resolved, the Newington Town Council, in accordance with Connecticut General Statutes 1-2006A, hereby moves to go into executive session and invites the town council members, the mayor, Ben Ancona, town attorney, and Randy Frank and Richard Brown, consultants, to discuss a personnel issue, town manager recruitment negotiations.
Second by Councilor Camillo. Any discussion? Hearing none. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion passes 8-0. Councilor Annis absent. We stand in executive session at, 9:32 PM. Councilors, we can take a quick recess, and if folks need a quick break, and then we'll get right into All right, we are back in public session at 10:43 PM. I would entertain a motion to adjourn.
So motion.
Moved by Counselor Camillo, seconded by,
Everybody.
Councilman,
just say second. Seconded by Counselor Menke.
everybody.
Any discussion? Hearing none, all those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion passes 8-0. Counselor Annis absent. We stand adjourned at 10:44 PM. Now it's official.